polite approach and friendly attitude. A gentle, enchanting voice that will instantly crush you. Charente asked the Baroness who was to blame for this situation. The baby's pacifier fell off. She started screaming. Charente asked if she needed a pacifier. He picked it up. The main character was excited to get her pacifier right away. The baby understood that she would go crazy without her pacifier. Deshar inserted Gela's pacifier. The girl noticed that he had already touched the pacifier but still pretended that he was disgusted by touching it. Gela noticed Deshar's gaze on her and did not understand why he was looking as if he was seeing a child with a pacifier for the first time. And why he was staring at her like that was also strange. The main character remembered that she was in Charente's arms. The Baroness said that she was a little confused about what they meant. It became somehow cold. Charente asked Baroness Sullivan if she could explain what it was, pointing to the chain that was attached to the nipple. Sullivan said it was for educational purposes. This surprised Charente very much, and he asked which ones with a smile. Judging by his reaction, it was not he who made her mock her like that. And in general, she thought that it was he who bought her the pacifier. Sullivan said the child was misbehaving and very disruptive, so she tried to teach her discipline before it was too late. This was not the case, and therefore Gela was very upset by the Baroness's words. Gela wanted to be released immediately because she wanted to kill the nanny right now. The baby was dangling in her arms because everything was not the way she wanted. Gela couldn't live even a day without a pacifier and can't say a word, so she still can't kill the nanny. Charente asked the baby if she was crying. The little girl mentally answered that, and she assumed that he liked it. Gela was very infuriated by everything, and she was furious. The man lowered the baby to the floor. Gela didn't understand why he lowered her so gently to the floor and didn't understand what he was thinking about. Gela needed to release her anger somewhere. The little girl thought that she needed to somehow kill this woman. Therefore, Hela decided to curse her so that she would suffer all her life. The nanny swung at the girl and called her a vile creature. Charente said that if the Baroness moved 1 inch, she would never again find the name Sullivan in the Book of Aristocrats. These words greatly surprised the Baroness. The thought that she went against the main character left her speechless. The man whose name is Charente and the entire clown family should be known as the Green Emperor. Sullivan turned to Deshar and said that this was a proposal closer to him and the young master, but the man told her that there were things that she should not poke her nose into. Gela couldn't believe what was happening. She didn't know what would happen now, but she already liked it. The baby began to hit the nanny on the legs with the pacifier, but suddenly remembered that she still had to put it in her mouth. The main character's stomach suddenly became unwell. She didn't know what to do if the pacifier got very dirty. The Baroness did not understand what kind of dirty and low positions they were putting her and the entire Sullivan family in. Charente said it was up to him to decide what was dirty or not. Baroness Sullivan just had to stop asking him to bark and just crawl. Now a real predator stands opposite her, and Cicely Sullivan feels like a victim. Charente approached the Baroness and said that he hated two-faced and stupid people, so she must listen carefully and remember. The man ordered her to return to her estate, close her eyes, and lock the door. It wouldn't hurt to draw the curtains either. From now on, the clown family should not attract unnecessary attention, and no matter how this happens, and the Baroness needs to do her best to maintain the family's reputation. The woman asked how long this would last, and the guy said that it will be until the clown blood disappears from this earth. The woman understood that he was definitely inviting her to spend her entire life in prison. If we were talking about any other aristocratic family, she could turn a blind eye to their words, but with the clowns, everything is different. The clown family is closely related to the royal family. Rumor has it that they are so powerful that even the king bows to them, and the clown family has never been known for its kindness. People who crossed the clown's path disappeared without a trace. An order hidden behind advice. The Baroness's family will never be left alone if she doesn't do as Charente Clown says. The guy asked if everything was clear to the woman, and she confirmed it. Sullivan said that as of today she is staying at home due to her weak body. Charente asked the servants to escort the lady. The little girl noticed that he was very cruel now. Gela understood that she should behave like a normal child and pretend that she was tired and that what happened did not touch her much. But these were different things, and revenge is revenge. The main character has already let off steam, and now she is looking for revenge. The aristocratic family that dared to touch her must pay the appropriate price. First, Gela needs material to create the curse: straw, holly, 12 rose thorns, and her hair. The little girl hoped that she would find hair in her room. Suddenly, Deshar shouted what the baby was doing. But she didn't understand what happened this time, and the man indignantly asked why she was so stupid. Gela has a weak body, and it is not surprising that she gets hurt all the time when she crawls. It's been that way since she was born. The main character no longer considers wounds a reason to feel sorry for herself. The girl was already tired of sitting in her arms, and she really wanted to get down, but Deshar told her to sit still so as not to fall. It was like a new kind of torture, and Gela was sick of Deshar. Deshar asked her to calm down and noted that she understood him perfectly. The little girl didn't understand why her silence meant that she understood him. The man noticed that even animals instinctively sense danger, not to mention people. The main character decided that this meant that she was dumber than an animal, but he said that she was very cute. Gela realized that most likely he was telling her not to repeat the mistakes of others. Deshar said that she was also stupid, and he would no longer allow her to suffer. And he won't even introduce a nanny to her with similar methods. He swore on the name of Deshar Clown. Gela was surprised why his voice was so tired and where the stern old man had gone. To be honest, the little girl was tired herself because she had been nervous all day about that lady. The baby began to fall asleep. The man became very interested in what that child had done. Deshar called Kant and ordered him to look among the maid for one who had experience in caring for children and introduced her to the baby. Deshar noticed that Charente said nothing. Charente noted that there is no need to start a scandal and let things take their course. Deshar himself confirmed this and understood that this meant that he had no objections. The doctor examined the baby. Deshar asked Renaud like a child. Renaud Pageon, the clown's family doctor. The doctor could not utter a word, so Deshar ordered him to speak directly. To begin with, Renaud decided to report that the young lady was developing more slowly than her peers and was noticeably poorly nourished. However, she is surprisingly healthy despite her experience. The doctor noticed that it is almost impossible for such a small child to find food on his own, except as a miracle of God. Otherwise, the baby can be called a genius. Renaud was at first surprised that the child was left unattended for more than 2 weeks, but he is more shocked that 2 famous representatives of the clown family are standing here because of an illegitimate child. This was surprising since it is common for the chief to expel both adults and children if they do not meet the standards. The baby is the daughter of the Count's son, so the Count's visit cannot but surprise. Even 20 years ago, when the doctor was still following the master, then Dr. Clowns, as an apprentice, the relationship between the Count and Balian was not very good. Officially, Deshar Clown has 3 children: eldest daughter, Syria Clown; second child, eldest son, Charente Clown; and the youngest son, Balian Clown. One thing could be said for sure about them: the children didn't really get along with each other, and from time to time they had strange conflicts. Renaud said the malnutrition symptoms would go away if the child was eating well, as would the injury she suffered while crawling on the stone floor. The baby has a lot of abrasions, and there are probably cracks in her bones. This surprised Deshar. Renaud noticed that every movement was painful for the baby. The doctor assured them that the baby should not crawl on the stone, and that it would be better to lay a carpet. But he understood that the clown family would not lay a carpet for the child. Renaud added that if such methods are difficult, then it is better to teach her to walk, and the faster the better. Deshar turned to Renaud Pazian and said that this was no longer his concern. Deshar ordered the doctor to visit the child regularly to monitor her growth and health. The doctor agreed and was prepared for numerous visits. Moonlight night. Today the main character is braiding straw. She added rose thorns and hair. As a result, the baby got a voodoo doll. This is difficult manual work and looks scary compared to what she usually did. But it took a week. No one ever knows how much effort it takes to collect material. That's all because the maid lives with the baby, and this way she doesn't have time to sneak out during the day. So in the middle of the night, the main character quietly climbed out of bed and quickly returned, because there was no time or opportunity to return to the room every few hours and check whether she woke up or not. Gela couldn't even imagine how difficult it would be to crawl and use magic and resist drowsiness at the same time. and the baby can't sleep and seems to be going crazy. Even though Hella pretended to be proud of her achievements, the maid was afraid that she would not be able to crawl any further. Recently, the main character tied a thick cloth to her knees so crawling became less painful for her, and the most important change is a new pacifier. It was a real golden pacifier. If Gela had known that there would be a new one, she would never have put the old and dirty one into her mouth again. In any case, now you don't have to be afraid of losing it, because the maid made a chain for the pacifier that looks like a necklace. The doll was finished. She looks scruffy but acceptable, so there should be no problem using black magic. Now all the baby needs is to drop her blood and add magical energy, and then set it on fire. There is already blood. Gela was pricked by a thorn, and one drop was enough. The problem was that the little girl did not understand how she could cram enough magical energy into the doll to activate the curse. Nothing worked for Gela, and she began to fall asleep. In the morning, the baby woke up, and the maid immediately took her in her arms. Gela screamed just like a real child. It seems that since Gela is really a child now, she is starting to act like she should. It seemed to her that yesterday she did something important. Suddenly, the maid picked up the voodoo doll and asked the little girl where it came from. The main character was very scared and did not know how to react to this. The little girl was very angry because a whole week of her work was lost. The maid said that if the girl wanted it, she would sew her a bear, which would be much cuter than this strange thing. The main character started freaking out on the floor. Gela understood that she was behaving like a child, but there was no other way. Because it took her a whole week to make the doll. She supposed children did this often. They cry to get what they want. The maid gave the lady her doll and asked the baby not to cry. This was the main character's personal maid named Bera. Bera asked the baby if she would allow herself to be picked up. This woman is very different from the rest of the servants in that she is kind and gentle. Bera also made the chain for the pacifier. She called Gela a good little lady, and her face was as understanding as that of the main character when she saw the golden pacifier. Great minds think alike. The maid noticed that the lady was crying again and assumed it was because she had taken her doll. Every time Bera takes Gela in her arms, she feels strange. In her past life, the main character never felt human warmth. Perhaps that is why touching the maid's skin seems unusual to the girl. How is it that she is treated like a child? Gela hates people, and nothing good will come from friendship with them. Getting attached to people is a weakness. The main character knows, but this feeling does not cause her any discomfort. The maid noticed that she had a very frightening face, and therefore she thought that the doll was very dear to her. Bera assumed that this was all because my lady felt lonely. These words surprised Gela very much. Bera asked the little girl not to worry because everyone around her knew that she was amazingly cute. But the main character hoped that no one knew this. The maid asked my lady if she would like to go for a walk. It was a great idea. After all, walking in the sun is always good. Gela began to smile and noticed that the maid was also smiling, but she did not understand why she was smiling so tenderly. Bera was happy to announce that it was time for a walk. While walking, the main character met Kishan. This boy really annoyed her. Deshar was surprised why the baby couldn't communicate. It was a very uncomfortable situation, and Gela didn't understand why her communication skills were being assessed precisely when she was sitting on the grass in an unknown location. This tea table. Less than 6 months ago, the main character ordered a tea table and service. In her previous life, she was waiting for them to be delivered. If she ever returns, it will be interesting to know who received them. Deshar called the baby to him. Gela didn't understand where she should hide the doll. Deshar Clown has seen a lot in his life. If he sees Gela now, he will think that she is crazy or trying to use black magic. But if it's not Charente, then who is it? He has a sharp eye, and it is difficult to understand what he is thinking about. Deshar called Sharina, and at that time, the little girl was thinking about where she could hide the doll. Gela decided that she would lie in the bushes for now. Kishan caught the baby and asked her grandfather if her name was really Sharina. Grandfather confirmed that the baby's name is Sharina. The main character decided for herself that she should not have anything to do with this type of people. He would have passed by if the main character had been reborn as Salopia. Therefore, you should not get attached to him. Witches never courted knights like him, like water and oil. It was so in that life, and so it is here. Keishan noticed that he and the baby have similar eyebrows. The main character did not want him to call her by name because she was easily suggestible. The boy asked his grandfather if Sharina was his younger sister. The man was simply silent. The little girl knew the answer, even if he hadn't said anything yet. Keishan didn't understand what was wrong and why the baby started to get so nervous. Gela was only thinking about when that thing would be thrown into the fire. Late at night, when darkness fell on the house, the main character ran into the garden, but because of the new soft lining on her knees, Gela now does not have to be afraid of abrasions, and Sharina now opens doors easily. It is enough for her to look at her sternly, and she will open herself. The little girl was even able to find the doll that she had hidden in the garden during the day. Now the main character needs to throw her into the fire. Suddenly, Keishan met the little girl and asked what Sharina was doing here. Gela didn't understand what was wrong with him. The boy was very sleepy and stood in his pajamas. The main character began to hit him on the legs, but noticed that he seemed very sad, and she didn't even remember the last time she consoled someone. So Gela started stroking her brother's hair. Keishan looked like a puppy in the rain. The boy said that he misses his mother, but Gela couldn't do anything about it. Keishan asked Sharina if she missed her mother, but the main character wasn't bored because she wasn't interested in people whose faces she didn't even remember. Vague outlines that pop up in memory cannot find them. Gela looked at her brother and noticed that he had calmed down, so she decided to crawl and burn the doll, and she should try walking because she needs to practice a lot. Getting to her feet for the first time, the main character was surprised at how difficult it was to hold even such a small body. It was much harder than she thought, but she did it. At her age, it would have been much stranger to continue crawling and not even try to get up. For now, keeping balance was still a challenge, but if Gela practices, it will become easier. Keishan asked what the little girl was doing here in the middle of the night. The boy assumed that she was looking for something and asked what it was. Meanwhile, Gela was looking for a fireplace. The boy continued to ask what she was doing here, and this greatly surprised the main character, because he was not yet tired of asking. Gela decided that if she answered rudely, he would leave. The little girl said boo. The boy repeated this, and so she decided that he was teasing her. It was very humiliating for Gela to hear children's sounds from others. Keishan asked Sharina if she was looking for fire. The boy said that he knew where the fireplace was and took the baby by the hands. This surprised Gela very much because he took her hands so easily. The brother told Sharina that it was dangerous here, but the main character considered him a fool because even if it was dangerous here, she had a better chance of surviving than he did. The more the main character looks, the more differences she notices from Sharente Clown. If you don't pay attention to his appearance, this small, shy child behaves as children should. It was generally incomprehensible how he managed to grow up with such a Charente upbringing. But however, if you remember the sweet voice of Charente, one might assume that Charente is cold to outsiders, but soft and gentle with his family. But Gela, this won't happen. Carefully checking people, Gela was still betrayed even by those who shared her views on the world. It doesn't matter how friendly the Charente and Deshar clowns are. After all, they behave this way only for the sake of Charente Clown's son. Misunderstanding and false hope will destroy the main character. The boy pointed to the side. There was a fireplace made from a magic pipe. Gela thought that they were looking for such a pipe during the time of the owner of the magic tower, and then she wondered why they needed it. Gela was wondering if she was warming the whole house, but the main character decided not to hesitate and threw the doll into the fire. She felt strange. But the baby needs to go back to the room, because Vera will come soon. Life under careful supervision, between an old man who has lost his magic heart and lives out his days alone in a closet, and the main character who is always under supervision and is not able to take a step to the side, but with healthy arms and legs. Keishan told the little girl that there was no need to throw anything into the fireplace. The brother turned to the baby and said that he was scared, so he invited her to sleep with him. The little girl turned her head in different directions. The boy took his sister and pressed him to him and said that he would share the bed with her. After all, a few seconds ago he saw the darkness and was very scared. The baby didn't want this, but the guy forcibly took her. Gela didn't understand why he was so strong. Kishan brought the baby to his place and said that this was his room. The main character thought it was unfair that the floor in her room was made of granite, but here they put a soft carpet. Moreover, the room is very spacious and the furniture is luxurious. Gela looked around and realized that her room was terribly empty compared to Kishan's room. This made her quite angry. But suddenly her brother called the baby. The little girl admitted that if you look at it, her brother is even a little cute, and he will definitely grow up to look like Melanie. Gela still remembers this name. Kishan told Serena that it was time for bed and said that her brother would sing her a lullaby. Gela considered him very arrogant, even though he was small. But in the end, Kishan was really handsome, because the Charente genes are a terrible force. Gela really wanted to go back to her room. The guy put his little sister to bed and the little girl was confused. It was a completely different level of comfort. This was a big difference from Gela's cheap and hard crib. Kishan told Serena his name. The main character didn't understand what was funny and why he was giggling. The boy asked them to keep it a secret that he called himself her brother, because father and grandfather will go crazy over this. Gela decided that she should take a break and run away a little later. Kishan told Serena that if she gets scared, she should remember that he is nearby. It seemed to the little girl that he was the only one afraid here. It was difficult for Gela to escape from such a strong child with such a weak body, especially when he clung to her out of fear. Gela decided that she definitely did not need warm blankets and his protection. Kishan said goodnight to Serena. This child feels the situation well and knows what to say. But the main character's name is Sharon, not Serena. The main character decided that she could sneak away when he fell asleep. Gela's eyelids grew heavy. Charente asked the servant to repeat. The man said that Baron Sullivan had arrived, and he escorted him to the third guest room. In the clown family, the third guest room is used for those who do not fancy a large room, a place to deal with or humiliate useless trash. Even the furniture and decor looks terrible after such meetings, but the poor appearance is enough to decorate the trash can. Charente suggested that the Sullivans had gone completely mad. Charente asked what the reason for the visit was. The servant said that most likely Baron Sullivan's wife died last night. This surprised the man very much, and he asked again, because he didn't send anyone and didn't understand how this happened. The man said that according to available information, a burnt body was found in one of the rooms. Charente wondered if there was a fire there. But the servant said that he was not there, and therefore this situation is alarming, because there was not even smoke there, so the Baron suspects the Duke. Last week they suffered the wrath of Charente, so this suspicion is justified. The matter was simple, but this time Charente did not want to interfere. For a person who visits his mansion not without certain motives, Charente does not want to waste energy. Charente was wondering who set the Baron's wife on fire if it wasn't a fire. The knight said that, as far as he knows, no traces of arson or fuel were found at the site. Charente realized that it was black magic. The man asked if his master wanted to say that the death of the Baron's wife was the work of a shaman. Charente said that most likely the reason was a curse from the realm of black magic. Charente believed that among the dirty little people who acquired magic and became shamans, only idiots use black magic. Wife of Baron Sullivan, she loved training dogs, so she also enjoyed raising children who did not want to listen to anyone. Nobles turned to her when they were looking for a mentor or nanny. This woman often taught illegitimate children. Of course, there were rumors that such training was kept secret. Between the Baron's wife and the lady who had children, it looks like she did something wrong and was punished. If the cause of death is truly black magic, the one who created the curse will experience a blowback. But, however, this is not Charente's business. The man thought that there would be no need to personally check how things were going with the Baron, but he himself came to him. Vera looked everywhere for Lady Sharina and did not understand where the baby was. The woman could not imagine where the lady had gone. Suddenly, Charente came up from behind and asked Vera what happened. The woman greeted the Duke. She apologized and said that the lady was not in her room, so Vera walked around the estate looking for her. The maid recalled that the Duke said that he would not tolerate it if he again saw a child crawling where it shouldn't. Vera said that she will find her soon, so she asks him not to be angry. Charente asked if the girl was in the Eastern Garden. The woman confirmed this and apologized because she was told not to go there, but the lady goes there often. But Vera just looked around and immediately left without touching anything. Sharente asked if she meant the baby wasn't there. The maid confirmed this. The woman was very surprised that he would not punish her for being in that garden. Suddenly, Deschartes came up and asked Sharente what he was doing so early in the morning. Sharente bowed to his father and said that the villainess's daughter seemed to have disappeared. Deschartes was furious and did not understand where this noisy creature could have gone. Deschartes shouted at the maid and asked where she was at that time. If Sharente Clown is like a calm lake, then Deschartes Clown is like a forest fire. With his hot temper, outbursts of anger did not seem like anything special, and he dedicated his life to serving the emperor. But his character can be considered a strong point, because he doesn't like talking about people behind their backs, except when he was very angry. Sharente told his father that news had reached him that Baron Sullivan's wife had died the previous night. Deschartes admitted that he doesn't have any information yet. The Knights of Simil are subordinate to Duke Clown. Only those who have worked for the Duke's family for many years and have earned his trust can join their ranks, and there are very few of them. Sharente said he's not sure, but it seems someone had a grudge against her and used black magic to kill her. Baron Sullivan recently visited Sharente due to the death of his wife. Sharente said that he would quickly find the child, especially since her father wanted to get information about her life. Deschartes noticed that they now have a lot of work to do. Sharente told Raoul that at least she was smart, but she's still a small child, so she couldn't go far. Therefore, the man should quickly find her and immediately report to his father. The man understood his order. Sharente turned to Vera. He asked if she closed the doors. Vera said that she was closing, and as far as she remembers, they were always closed. Sharente didn't think she was lying. The Duke ordered her to take care of his father for now and report all the news to him first. Sharente bowed to his father and said that he was already leaving. Vera felt like a rabbit, and yet the maid still did not understand where the lady had gone. She-devil. Judging by the sound, the girl was slapped in the face, but she didn't understand why her head was buzzing so much. The feeling was the word of someone entering her mind. The body was as heavy as cotton soaked in water. Her eyes didn't even open, as if her eyelids had been glued together. It was heard that someone was talking about some kind of punishment. Punishment for the fact that she attempted the lives of others using her monstrous powers. It was some familiar voice from the past. The woman told the master that thanks to them she got the place that he could not. He founded a country for wizards who were despised everywhere and treated like monsters. Nothing will change with her death, but she will die painfully. The voice screamed that his biggest mistake was getting involved with someone like her. A life in which anyone could trample a girl into the dirt. A miserable existence for the amusement of the crowd for the sake of life. If she can't just fight for her life, then she will become a devil. Someone was calling her. The main character opened her eyes because she heard someone screaming. A vision before her, beautiful and young. It was Kishin's face. The baby still bites the pacifier and cannot get out of the habit. He called the baby Sleepyhead. Kishin said that now she needs to eat. The boy assumed that she did not understand and began to show her how they would eat. The boy asked if Serena knew what a wet nurse was. The main character suddenly felt black magic, and it looks like the curse worked. However, the Baron's wife died. The soul was drawn to Gela, and the magic consumed her. The main character really missed that special feeling. Soon the cocoon will grow and become a magical heart that stores magic. The baby's body was very heavy, and she thought she had a fever. Gela only has a small body without horns. She absorbed a soul full of resentment, so her return was appropriate. Gela was wondering how high her temperature was. The main character's hand simply did not reach her forehead. Gela put her hand to her cheeks. She was lucky they were cold. She felt like she was touching a hot ball. Gela won't get sick often as long as her magic is stable. In addition, if magical power is used incorrectly now, the baby will be in danger of a magical explosion. So she should sit quietly in bed for a while. It was very painful for Gela to just sit. It's already morning, and she should probably go back to her room. The little girl was very interested in whether Vera was looking for her. She hoped that the maid would come, since then it would be easier to hide her absence. This is to be expected. The fact that she can only rely on herself has not changed. It was time to return. There is a carpet on the floor, so it doesn't hurt to fall. It would be great if you put the same thing in Gela's room. Kishin was delighted that Serena climbed out of bed on her own. However, the difference in attitude towards loved and unloved children was expected. The main character did not understand what she could expect from the clown family. She also had to exercise more to make walking easier. Walking is much faster than crawling. Kishan suggested that his sister go and have breakfast with his brother and mother. Gela stood up angrily and with all her appearance said that she did not want this. The boy took the baby in his arms and they walked. The main character did not understand whether he had ever tried to listen to her. Before things get too bad, Gela needs to train her speech. This is to clearly say no to such pastimes, but the main character couldn't pronounce 2 more letters. When Gela wants to say them, she loses her breath. Baby Vervi saw a double ceiling, but she felt very bad. Everything swam before Sharina's eyes. Someone called Kishan, and the main character became very interested in who was there. A dark spot was approaching. It was Sharente Clown. But the little girl saw him as just a black mountain. She began to approach, and I didn't understand why the mountain was so close. Gela grabbed Sharente by the hair. Everyone was in complete shock. The main character understood that something strange was going on. Gela saw double, and she already saw 2 mountains. Gela was very interested in why she felt like such an idiot. She felt cool again, like an ice pack. Sharente said she had a fever, and the voice that said this was like evil, and very similar to the voice of Sharente. The Duke removed his hand, and the baby became very hot again. Gela was angry because Sharente even stole the ice pack. It wasn't fair. Hela knows he's a bad guy, and he has a lot of money. Why then he steals her ice pack was not clear. Suddenly, the little girl heard Vera's voice. Deshar asked her where she had been. The baby was very surprised, because the mountain was supposed to be black, but it turned gray. New Mount Vera. Deshar said that Sharina is a little thing that crawls everywhere. The little girl understood that it was not Vera who was reaching out to her, so she turned away. The main character did not understand where Vera was and why everything around was so strange. The baby was wagging her arms to the sides, and Vera immediately wanted to run up. Vera took Sharina in her arms and told the lady that everything was fine now. The main character realized that these were Vera's hands. Finally, the baby could calmly close her eyes in this house, because Vera doesn't look like someone who would have the guts to kill her. Vera told the baby that everything was fine now. Sharente told Vera that he would send for the doctor, so she should stay in the room. Vera was pregnant, but lost the child, and she assumed that because of this, although she was not connected with the baby and a drop of blood, she was so strongly attached. Sharente noticed that Vera was a good choice. The Duke turned to Kishan. He took him in his arms and asked how he and the baby met. Kishan said that he couldn't sleep last night, so he slipped out of the room, and the baby was crawling along the corridor. Kishan was surprised and asked where she was crawling. The boy indicated that they were going there. Sharente asked if he had decided to bring her to him. Kishan said that they were looking for a fire and came to the fireplace because it was cold, and because Kishan was afraid, he asked the baby to sleep with him. The boy said that she slept peacefully, and when she woke up, she became very hot and asked if the baby was unwell. Sharente said that his teacher would come to his son soon and he should prepare. Sharente told his father to go and rest because he would take care of the remaining matters himself. Deshar noted that it seemed to him that the baby had her own ideas about what was good and what was bad. Sharente told his father not to worry. If Deshar doesn't like Sharina avoiding him, Sharente will train her properly. Deshar agreed, but asked him not to do it. A piece of the soul that will become the magical power of the main character. Gela can't see it. The baby felt something cold and didn't want it to go away. The baby didn't understand why she couldn't reach it. She apologized for her mind being blank. Gela could not control her body, so she acted reflexively. The man said that she seemed to be in pain from such a high temperature. He touched her forehead and put a cloth on her head, which was well cold. A gentle and caring touch from the hands. The baby was reaching for the cold. The man said that it was impossible to determine the cause of the fever, so she should at least get some sleep. The hand stroking the baby's hair was soft, cool, and gentle. The cold hand did not shake off her clumsy hands, so Gela fell asleep peacefully. A few days later, the baby was very bored, and it seemed to her that she would soon die of boredom. She was sad, and there was no reason for it. Gela is already feeling better, but Vera does not loosen her control. The little girl didn't understand what else they needed. It's difficult to even think about something because Vera is always nearby. And he only leaves to eat. Vera was sitting next to the lady and wanted to read a book to her. The magic has not yet stabilized, so if Jella uses it, the baby's body will not be able to withstand it and will explode. That's why the baby is imprisoned in a crib. Jella's only possessions are what she is currently holding in her hands. And today Jella is disappointed and only drinks milk. It was tasty and spicy. It is suitable for a snack. Vera gives Jella snacks every day and doesn't even look at her anymore when she gives Jella a bottle. Everything was so tasty that it didn't even get boring. Kishan came and was very happy to see Serena. An unwanted guest comes every day and brings a book and gives it to Jella. Today this book was Yo. This is a woman. The main character is already sick of the daily changing books. Kishan said that he took it from his father's library. Jella understood that now he was trying to kill her in such a strange way. The little girl understood that she would most likely die because of Charente Clown. The boy was so excited that he even spoke differently. The boy showed the little girl pictures from the book. This book was familiar to Jella, and the little girl did not understand why her book was here. Introduction to Black Magic Curse. Jella has already said that this book contains only pictures, and it is about black magic and simple spells. The book contains many curses, therefore, the one who starts reading it will lose all his energy, and she is very dangerous. Even after reading just a couple of chapters, the desire to become a brimstone magician appears. The little girl thought that she had destroyed all the books and did not understand where she had come from. Judging by his smile, he has no idea which book he took. The boy said that the doll in the book was very similar to the one Sharina made. The main character did just that. Kishan said that this one is ugly, and the one that my sister made is much prettier. The main character was grateful, but did not understand why he was visiting her as if she were a prisoner. And then it dawned on her that he actually thought that an armful of crookedly tied straw was more beautiful than its design. Kishan said that the book could be left with Sharina. Jella noticed that she had not seen her book for a long time. She decided to read it when Vera was distracted. My brother said that Sharina is very nice. And Jella didn't like the fact that he didn't even change his face when he touched her wonderful cheeks. Kishan asked the little girl if she knew that there would be a party in the garden today, but the boy called it a chivirinka. Hella thought he was stupid because he spoke incorrectly. He can't even pronounce a word correctly, and yet he's already trying to teach someone. Kishan said that at the party there are a lot of people, a lot of delicious food, and you can make friends with someone. All the guests are good people whom the father invited. The baby was very happy because she would have a great chance to crawl around. If the guests are those whom Charente chose, then they are probably entirely people from families with a long history or high status. If the main character gets stuck here, no one will notice her. It's okay because parties are still fun. Jella has enough strength to at least walk, and when her powers become stronger, Jella will be able to use the magic of tomorrow. Wait a little longer until Sharina can fully use her powers, and then, finally, Jella will be able to leave this house. Even if she leaves or dies, the clowns won't raise an eyebrow. In the most extreme case, they are used as misfortune, and they will say that it was a kidnapping or an accident. They will pretend to look for her, but in reality, they will just let her go. And Jella will be able to take care of herself. The main character is satisfied with this development of events. Kishan added that he also heard that sorcerers would come to protect the magic item. Kishan said that his classes would start soon, but it will come again. Jella thought about what he said that the sorcerers would come. Jella knew that they would meet again, but she didn't think it would be so soon. And she was also too weak to take revenge. Of course, no one will recognize Jella. She understood that Melaine would not appear yet, and she was only one rank below the Tower Master. So, most likely, it was Melaine who took Jella's place. The main character could not believe that the owner of the tower personally came to check the magic item. Vera has arrived. Today she brought applesauce. The maid said that if the baby eats everything, she will treat her. The baby was very happy. Sweet applesauce will help Jella make anyone feel better. It was the best thing the main character ate as a child. It just melts in your mouth, so delicious. Jella considered Vera the best. The girl did not know how to describe the taste of the food being served. She is neither good nor bad, just tasteless. You can't even bite properly. And the main character wants to dig into a juicy piece of meat. But today there will be mashed potatoes. Jella was delighted. Applesauce is incredibly delicious. Vera asked the baby if she was full. Sometimes Vera leans her forehead against hers and it's quite pleasant. The baby was in seventh heaven. Vera asked if they should go for a walk. The main character was very happy. A little bit later, Deshar called Vera. Gela realized that it was Deshar who called them for a walk. Vera could not be sure that everything would be okay with the lady. Vera said that she was leaving them. The little girl didn't understand why he was looking at her like that. Therefore, she assumed that Dechard was upset. The man stood up, but the baby rolled away. It seemed to him that she was afraid of being caught and said that Sharina was agile, as always. When Gela realized that rolling was more convenient than crawling, then the baby began to roll, sensing danger. Deshar said he left something here somewhere. Gela was very interested in what he was looking for there. Deshar knelt down and addressed Sharina. The little girl could not even imagine what he was hiding behind his back. The main character did not want to believe that he would kill her now. Gela also suggested that he wanted to lock her in a room for the rest of her days. Gela didn't want to believe that she could die again right now. Deshar asked if she liked this toy. The man showed her a red hair. It was a plush toy. The little girl didn't think it was a damned doll, but what is it then? Gela was familiar with blue stones as eyes. Therefore, the little girl assumed that it was a magic stone. The toy's eyes were small, but the stones were definitely magical. Deshar said that the child is still a child and he is interested in toys anyway. The man took the baby in his arms. The little girl did not understand what was happening. The Duke said that he was so busy that he did not notice how the little body became healthier. Gela didn't understand why he sounded so gentle, because his tone didn't match his face. And then Gela started thinking about what Deshar Clown really is. And even more interesting was whether Deshar Clown was like that. The man who yelled at her every day in the past. A person who is irritated by both enemies and allies. Hero of hundreds of victories, Deshar Clown. The man asked Sharina to press the rabbit. The toy made a sound, and it seemed very familiar to Gela. This is a rabbit, a bear. Deshar said he heard that children liked these toys. Gela thought that if they liked such monsters, then children in the Empire had a very specific taste. Gela thought that if they were ready to waste magic stones, then it would be better to give them to her. After all, the main character already has little magical energy, but this way she can fix it. Gela needs to absorb the power of the stones. Deshar noticed that the baby noticed that it was expensive. The man took a larger stone from the box and asked if she liked it. The stones are much larger than the toy's eyes and are very clean. The little girl wanted all the stones to be given to her because she considered them hers. She wanted her magic stone and her doll. Deshar decided to give it to the baby. Deshar said that even though the clown's blood was mixed, Sharina should be able to find the most expensive things. Of course, the magic stone was the same to Gela as a heart, yet the rich are different. A magic stone of this size is expensive, but it sits idle in a distant drawer. Deshar Clown became a little better in the eyes of the main character. A little while later, Deshar called Sharina to his place. The baby didn't understand why he was calling her. Deshar said that if the baby came up, he would give her another magic stone. Gela saw a stone and began to crawl towards it, but Deshar stopped her and said that she should just go. Gela was very angry that he was asking too much, but if the main character can get a magic stone, then she is ready to play the role of an obedient puppy. Crawling is much more convenient than walking. Now Deshar looks completely different, and you can't see that stone mask on his face when he screams at everyone around him. Deshar watched Sharina walk and praised her. Gela assumed that it was a matter of pedigree and did not understand what mixed blood was about. So Deshar Clown carefully watched the baby's hesitant steps, trying not to miss a single detail. The baby came up and Deshar took her in his arms and said that he would really like to see her properly. There was genuine regret in his voice. However, if one parent is objectionable in some way, then the child will also be objectionable. So Gela decided to pretend that she had not heard anything. The man held the baby close to him. He called Gela by name many times, but did not add Clown. This is probably the only thing Deshar Clown can give to Sharina. In this way, it marks the boundaries. Although for someone who very clearly separates the personal and the accessible public, he behaves strangely. Gela decided to put everything in her pocket. I haven't lost anything yet. Deshar decided to add to the word that recently the little girl was able to pronounce the name of that maid well. The main character immediately understood that he was talking about Vera. The little girl could not really say anything with such a language, and therefore she did not understand how he heard the name of Faith from her. The baby still can't speak. The main character noticed that he really is strange today, and then Dashar asked if Sharina would call him grandfather. This surprised Gela very much, and she did not understand what he was saying. This old man brought her too much suffering for such a nickname, so I just watched and sat back. This clown, Dashar, claimed that Gela was inexperienced. Each time the man ruined the main character's mood with his grumbling. When Gela prepared the report for the meeting and made every effort to organize the negotiations, he simply nodded. Of course, there were other problems besides this. The newly founded state was not stable. In order to be recognized, measures had to be taken. As everyone knows, magicians are stronger than ordinary people, but one should not underestimate military power, warriors, and commoners. It doesn't matter how the young state manages them. Luckily, magic items are only made in Silopia. Silopia bases his foreign policy on this. Magic is dangerous. To change this popular belief, Silopia used magic in her daily life, so that the state is not harmed and is considered harmless. Over time, they secretly increased their power, so that no one dares to look down on Silopia. The main character thought it would be so simple. Talented magicians, including Gela, were forced to study offensive magic. But Gela mainly used dark magic with a particularly high degree of destruction, and only the head of the magic tower and a few other powerful magicians like Mullane, no one understood the danger and destructiveness of black magic as they did. That's why they got rid of the main character. Gela thought that she was very stupid. Dashar asked if it was still difficult for the little girl to understand this. Gela didn't understand how someone could be like that, so thick-skinned because he abandoned her, that is, the owner of this body. In addition, Dashar does nothing for her, and now asks to call him grandfather. Dashar didn't even remember about the baby. The main character almost died, so she didn't understand what kind of family this was. She didn't understand how they could have the impudence. Gela decided that they would not be able to seduce her with some kind of magic crystal. The baby called Dashar grandpa and snuggled up to him. Gela did this because pride alone would not help her survive. The level of this crystal varies from B+ to A. The main character decided that even though she doesn't have much mana yet, but with this pebble, at the age of 4, Sharina will be able to provide herself with a good life. It is enough to use crystals to become stronger. If Hela could use magic, problems such as eating and daily worries would be solved. Magically, crystals are the best. Dashar called the little girl smart and noted that she was incredibly greedy, but from now on, she must call him grandfather. Gela realized that if she needed to call Dashar grandfather for the sake of the crystal, whether the main character can wisely choose between the crystal and life. Dashar said he knows the little girl kind of hates him and Charente, but Gela noticed that not partly. She hated them very, very much. After all, he can't even imagine how painfully she had to choose between the crystal and calling him grandfather. Again, the man had that expression on his face. It really infuriated the main character, and Sharina didn't want to see him anymore. Dashar said that if he accepted Sharina's mother, would things be different now? Although she is still treated poorly, and she has someone to protect. Not the main character, but Sharina. Dashar said that it doesn't matter because the baby doesn't understand what he's talking about. But Gela understood everything perfectly. Dashar said that the baby could take the crystal for herself and noted that he would give her these if Sharina called him grandfather. The little girl called Dashar grandpa again because she decided that for every time she would get a crystal. Dashar said that everything was correct and noted that Sharina was still a mercantile girl. Dashar thought about the fact that Balian is not materialistic. They said that when a person is happy, some kind of failure will definitely befall him. Vera held the baby in her arms and told Sharina that this was probably the first time she had seen so many people. And she noticed that the Duke allowed her to join the banquet. Gela didn't understand why invite someone who couldn't even take part in it. The baby looked menacingly, and therefore Vera realized that her mistress was in a bad mood today. Vera asked Sharina if she could bring her some mashed potatoes, but looking at her hands, the woman discovered that the baby had disappeared. Gela felt embarrassed in front of Vera, but she needed peace and quiet to think. It was better for the main character to leave the banquet. The boy told the little girl to bring something. This was expected, but Gela did not understand how her appearance and character could be so boring. These children were terribly vile. The main character decided that there was no point in wasting her time on them. She decided to sneak into the Charente garden. They called her a bastard. The boy asked his brother what bastard meant. He said that he was a vile person, who will be thrown out of their family later, considered unworthy. Mom told him it was the same as being a slave. This bothered the main character, and she wanted this little thing to watch her tongue. The boy grabbed the baby and called her a mudblood. The guy threw her on the floor. Gela was in a lot of pain. The dress that her favorite maid had chosen for her in the morning was covered in dirt, although in fact the girl does not care if her dress gets dirty. The boy asked Sharina what she was staring at. She annoyed the children. These children were simply monsters, and the main character did not understand why they should pick on someone who sits quietly. Gela decided that they just wanted to die, and that's why they were making a fuss. The baby got hurt when she was abandoned. She didn't know what she would say to Vera. Perhaps she will say that she fell down the stairs. But then the main character started thinking about why she even had to come up with excuses. After all, they were the ones who mocked her. The children annoyed Gela, and she thought about killing them all. In any case, Gela plans to grow up quickly and master black magic. These children have little energy, but judging by their character, they probably have a lot of energy. And then the little girl thought that she was taking them for her opponents. The boy menacingly asked the girl, calling her a bastard, if she was looking down on them. In general, Gela cannot simply let them get away with their rudeness. If she had a crystal with her, the main character would throw them into the water. The little girl took the stone in her hands and threw it at one boy's forehead. She started to run away, and the boy ordered everyone to catch up with her. Gela understood that she would be finished if she was caught. Gela decided to run as fast as she could. The man said that it was an honor for the children to come here. The Duke was glad that they came here. Charente said the words confused him, and in general he is glad that they accepted his invitation. Despite the fact that only 20 families were invited, they arrived almost in full force, so there were a lot of people. The Duke wondered where Kishan was. He saw the boy sitting on the floor. Charente came up and called his son. The man asked what Kishan was doing here. The boy timidly announced that he was looking for the baby. He knew that her father did not love Sharina. Charente asked if the boy was talking about the little girl he slept with last night. The boy confirmed this and noticed that his grandfather said that Serena came to the banquet. Charente asked in surprise if his father had said this. The boy confirmed, but said he couldn't find her. Kishan sadly said that he definitely saw Sharina with other children. Charente thought it was a small snail. He didn't know where the baby went, but she had to leave traces. But it was difficult to immediately tell where Sharina crawled. Traces as if someone was crawling, and the prints of children's feet. Charente did not understand whether this child could not sit quietly. The children were looking for Sharina. One of them said that she was in that direction. Hela would advise him to stop. That boy called the baby a cockroach. Gela thought they were idiots, and I wasn't sure that they were guests of Charente. They are a group of children bullying one child, so they are cockroaches. Hela had to take revenge on the one in the middle. But first, the main character needed to rest. Hela crawled in many places and was able to find a pond. She felt like her body couldn't recover. Finally, the children caught the baby. The one in the middle said that he would not allow Sharina to escape. Gela understood what she had to say. The baby took the crystal in her hands and tried to say something. They were doomed. Meanwhile, Charente tried to find where the children had gone. Charente didn't know why he was looking for her. The feeling of disappointment is getting stronger and stronger. The Duke didn't like what was happening. The Charente garden was destroyed at the request of Gela, and she behaves as if nothing had happened. Sharina reminded Charente of his brother Balian. He did a lot before leaving his family. It was a great pity. Suddenly, Charente heard screams calling for help. He realized from the voice that these were children. When Charente approached, he could not believe his eyes. Children were flying in the air. They begged for mercy and said they were wrong. Charente saw a magic stone in the baby's hands. He thought that a small child could not use such a thing. Charente couldn't believe what he saw and didn't understand where the little girl got the magic stone. The boy said that he was wrong, and it was his fault, and he cried. Charente could not allow her to continue, otherwise something irreparable would happen. Charente called Sharina. The baby noticed that for the first time, the Duke called her by name. The main character blamed herself for not finishing it faster. Gela decided to just quickly deal with him. But the problem was that if their parents saw even a bruise, a scandal could not be avoided. The main character was not very upset that Charente noticed her, because even if he wants to kill the baby, Gela will be able to teleport using the stone. The girl cannot yet freely use complex spells, but she will definitely succeed once. Charente took the stone. He said he didn't know where the baby got it, but she shouldn't do anything that could harm the family. The girl really wanted Charente to let her go. Charente noticed that the baby was very stubborn. The man ordered the main character that she should stop using the stone. Gela didn't see anything, so she couldn't resist. The hand with which Charente covered the girl's eyes was very warm. Gela is angry, but the warm touch calms her down. Because of the heat, the baby could not think normally. Charente said that Sharina can use magic. She got caught. The fact that Gela was caught using magic was very bad. It was well known that the clowns, especially the Charentes, hated magicians. Clowns are a kind of swordsman. They believe that magic only brings harm. The baby wanted him to give her the pacifier. Charente asked if Sharina wanted to let the children go. The little girl innocently looked in his direction and pretended that she did not understand him. Gela decided that it was true that Charente was heartless and did not understand how someone could look at a sweet and pretty little girl like that. But she still felt that it was her fault that she was caught. In any case, choose the lesser of two evils. Charente said she has a pacifier addiction. Gela didn't understand what was wrong with her. The baby wanted him to give her the pacifier. Without a pacifier, the baby was already dizzy. Charente handed the pacifier to Sharina. Gela thought that he didn't want to touch her because he was giving her two hands. Gela did not want to believe that he did not give her a pacifier only because she first extended one hand to him and not two. When the main character takes the pacifier into her mouth, her heart, which was beating like crazy, calms down. The nervous excitement that has accumulated over the day fades away. Gela decided that she should still keep the pacifier in her mouth more often. When you have to play the role of a child, you actually become one. The baby let the children go, and Charente took the stone from her, so the main character decided that she would return to Vera. Sharina was very angry with the Duke. The way Charente took the stone was very rude. Gela didn't understand where he took it because Sharina got this stone through difficult work, and now he's taking it away. The power of the stone was still half used up, so she thought the stone might be useless. His smile is scary. Next time Gela should try not to answer. The woman took her son in her arms and asked him not to cry, because his mother was nearby. They asked to tell me what happened. Children cling to their parents and whine. Children bullied Sharina, and now she is a villain. After all, a child can cling to his parents like this, and the main character is an adult, so she can handle it herself. The baby really wanted to see Vera. Kishan came up from behind and asked the baby if she was okay. Gela wanted to say that, of course, she was fine, because they were disheveled and beaten, not her. Kishan told the little girl that her dress was dirty. The baby pulled her hands up and Kishan noticed the scratches. The girl immediately hid her hands as she accidentally hurt herself. The main character remembered that she was pretending to be very strong, and she hoped that no one saw her scratches. But Charente stood behind, but Gela decided not to worry, because they wouldn't notice anything. Gela didn't understand why he was the one. A woman ran up to the Duke and said that she had just heard something incredible. Charente asked again. The woman said that she heard this child using some dirty magic tricks to take the lives of her children. This angered the main character. Charente asked if such a baby could use magic. The man reported that even the youngest sorcerer in history, named Silopia, was about 4 years old. And yet the woman says that this child used magic to make those guys fall into the water. This woman was Baroness Dahlia. The woman screamed that the children were screaming the same thing. And there is no evidence that they fell into the water without any explanation. Charente said he wasn't sure and didn't think the baby was that smart. These words of Charente angered the little girl. She understood that either he was on her side, or he simply did not want to admit that the baby was a genius. Gela never thought that she would be scolded publicly. The Baroness was screaming, so Gela decided that since Charente decided not to touch her, then she should also play her role well. Sharina has become a cutie. The woman said that it was definitely this girl, and Sharina completely portrayed a child. Charente grinned and Gela decided that she looked funny to him. Charente said their opinions differ. It was just the Duke's hypothesis. But he said that those children kept pushing and hurting that girl. The man asked how long he should turn a blind eye to this and allow such things to happen on his estate. Charente asked how the Baroness would now explain herself. Charente uses normal words, but the atmosphere is not normal at all. Such a scene. Be that as it may, Gela did what was needed. Kishin did not understand where the baby was going. The main character decided that she would leave the rest to him. They started first, and Gela had to answer. But the main character does not regret anything. The little girl didn't know where her cute magic pebble was now. But then someone suddenly took the baby in his arms. It was Deckard. The main character did not understand why he raised her. This was a big nuisance because the clown family knows how to catch monsters with their bare hands. And since Sharina is a disgrace to the family, she thinks that they can hit her and throw her out in a back alley. Deschar began to shout that they needed to monitor the upbringing of their children. The man didn't understand how they all dare to treat this child like that. He held the baby close to him and asked who dares to raise a hand against a member of the clown family. Deschar called Sharina a small and defenseless baby. Gela was outraged that he called her small and helpless. Gela was definitely small, but could not be considered defenseless. The main character could not believe that the day had come when Deschar Clown was on her side. But that was only because he doesn't know who the baby really is. Deschar Clown also got angry in meetings, but not to that extent. The main character hated being considered weak. This must have affected her mood. But oddly enough, not this time. Charente said that things had gone too far, so from now on the party was over. Their faces turned white because they were afraid that they had harmed the clown family. Gela decided that she would no longer be angry. She guessed that she would probably be locked up for a couple of days for using magic, but at least she knew that those two didn't want her dead just yet. The main character couldn't even believe that they were defending an illegitimate child like that in front of other nobles, so everything ended well. That's what Gela thought. Vera fed Sharina. The main character knew that she would return to her room with Vera. Gela didn't understand why she was still in this estate with them. Charente turned to his father. It looked like a family meal, but in reality it was different. Charente placed a stone on the table and told his father that it was the baby's stone. Charente asked his father where she got it from. He also noticed that Sharina really knew how to use it. It was magic. Gela was very angry because he didn't even wait until the end of the meal. Charente turned to Vera. He asked the maid if she had ever seen the little girl use magic. Vera was surprised by such questions and said that she had never noticed anything like this. Gela was a little ashamed in front of Vera. Charente asked if she'd never seen this. Vera confirmed this. The Duke noticed that apparently she was hiding this on purpose. Charente noticed that the baby was quite smart. Gela decided that she would continue to pretend as if she didn't know anything, because she was out of her depth. We ate and slept. The Duke turned to Kishin. Gela is already accustomed to the cold-blooded Charente acting friendly towards him, but what a family was not clear. Gela didn't understand whether something that only had a blood connection was considered family. She didn't know what a person was willing to do for his family. The main character was wondering whether Charente was aware of her weakness. The main character was not destined to understand this. The Duke asked his son if he had said that he had seen the little girl throwing something into the fireplace. Sharina didn't want Kishin to say anything. Kishin happily said that it was a straw doll. The boy's attentiveness greatly irritated the main character, and she did not understand why he was like this. Gela was caught doing everything except using magic, but she doesn't know how much this family of swordsmen hates magic. Charente told his father that he would leave and go to the child's room. Deschar didn't understand why he should go to the baby's room. Charente said he just needed to check something. The man asked Vera to show where Sharina's room was. Deschar said that if this is a magician in the clown family, then he will also go. Charente told Kishin to go to his room after finishing his meal. The boy understood him. It was very dangerous because the clowns hated magic, but they simply couldn't stand dark magic. Charente is very sensitive to her. Therefore, when Gela entered the meeting room, since she reeked of black magic, he always looked at her with a frown. She understood that if he decided to find evidence of the use of black magic, then nothing would stop him. And the straw doll was easy to find, you just had to look a little. Vera said that the little girl suddenly became nervous and asked her what happened. She didn't understand why the baby was trembling. Gela knew very well how people treated magicians. In a world where they are called sorcerers and persecuted, young magicians often become slaves. They came. Sharina decided to pretend that she doesn't understand anything and pretend that she doesn't know anything. Gela understood that sooner or later they would have found out about her tricks. While there is still a chance to escape, Gela will find the crystals hidden under the rug and escape. Deschard asked Charente what he was looking for here. Charente saw a book in the crib. Gela understood that she was finished. She took the crystals. 3 crystals were in place, the pacifier was also present, and so she decided to get started. The destination was the forest. Gela didn't know whether she could withstand 3 crystals and didn't know whether she would survive or not. But it looks like she's not a tenant in the clown mansion anyway. She didn't know how much magic she could use in this body, but Gela has no other choice. Charente turned sharply to the baby. He looked menacingly and headed towards her. Gela tried to transport herself to the forest right now. All that remains is to absorb the mana. There was no other choice. She tried to squeeze out all her strength, and the main character succeeded. She simply disappeared into thin air. Vera was very surprised and did not understand where the lady had disappeared. Charente realized that this child knew how to escape, and this is the type of magic that requires training, even if there are mana stones. Deschard approached Charente and shouted and asked what he wanted to do with the child. Deschard said that he did not give him the right to harm the baby. Charente asked his father to calm down because he was trying to break the magic stone, because Sharina was going to use magic. And even he would not take the life of a defenseless child without any reason. But Deschard was only guessing, and so Charente asked if he really looked like he wanted to kill her. Deschard didn't think he really intended to kill her, but his act was still cruel. Therefore, the father said that anyway, taking out the sword was too much, because Deschard understands how much his son hates magic. Regardless of the cause, Deschard will not allow the child to be harmed. Charente simply smiled. It was a shame that they didn't even know where the baby had gone. Charente said he would send people to find her. And this man is a mouse who comes and goes as he pleases. The man said that calling him a mouse was a little cruel. Charente said it suited him, but he had nothing to do with it. And he noticed that an unexpected guest had entered another person's mansion wearing dirty shoes. Melaine reported that it was because he sensed magic in the mansion. That's why he's here to prepare for the unexpected. He apologized for possibly annoying the clowns. Charente asked who the man was. Melaine understood that the Duke was deliberately belittling him, who had come to resolve the situation. But he shouldn't have gotten involved with the Duke's family. Since the Emperor empowered Duke Clown, his family now represents the Aeron Empire. To be associated with the Clown family means to be at enmity with the greatest empire, Hieron. The man said that his name is Melen Salopia and he is the new owner of the Magic Tower. He had a surname that could be used by the owners of the Magic Tower, Salopia. This was Gela Salopia's last name, since she left. Charente asked where the hostess was because he did not understand why the newcomer himself should go. The man said that the previous owner of the Magic Tower was executed for an unacceptable crime. Charente asked with a smile. Melaine said that she used forbidden black magic, and she killed people for no reason. That's why she was seen as a big threat to Salopia. Deschard noticed that they were exploiting her, and as soon as she became stronger, they were all afraid. Charente noted that this is understandable because when people are in power and receive even more, it is only annoying. Charente said that the fact that Gela Salopia used black magic is not news to anyone. And Deschard said that Griffin had recently flown to them and they should have done a better job. Malin said that there was an unpredictable mistake and he is already trying to control everything. And this, by the way, is one of the reasons for his visit. Deschard shouted that everything that held their nation together was falling apart piece by piece, and only he stands here pretending that nothing is happening. No one could have predicted that the person guarding the relic would disappear. If it were her, this wouldn't have happened. It's as if Melon is an empty place, an emptiness that he can't help but think about and wouldn't exist if Gela were near him. Melaine began to feel this emptiness due to the disappearance of Hela. Deschard said that if something like this happens again, he will report it to Salopia, but it won't change anything. Melaine said that he would remember the Duke's words. Gela has disappeared, and he needs to deal with everything. The man noticed that they probably needed his help, and so he asked if they could tell him if they had noticed magic before. Charente said he believes his niece was born with a magical gift that no one could have ever imagined. And the little girl felt threatened, so she disappeared with the magic stones. Teleportation is a low-level magic, but after learning it, you need to practice for at least 2-3 years to use it. Melaine has heard that Charente's son is still young, so he believes that his niece must be about 7 years old. However, running away with magic stones at this age is quite commendable. The man believed that his niece was born with excellent abilities. A child must be at least 13, 14 years old to use such magic, even with accelerated practice. Deshar said this is not surprising for a member of the clown family. Melaine didn't believe it because it was with them that the baby felt threatened. Melaine said that he thought that the child would not be difficult to find. She hasn't fully mastered magic yet. Therefore, he cannot hide his abilities. Gela thought she would die, and her short life almost ended here. Be that as it may, it would be a shame to die at that age. How did the main character, the great Gela, come to this? It felt great to say the words that she was okay. She felt very sorry for her new language. The main character is alone again. Of course, she didn't expect anyone to be there when she left the Duke's house, but it's a pity that she doesn't have warm sheets and good food. It was not fun to think about how she would eat grass again, so she decided to become a beggar. Yes, it's nothing new to her, and the second time everything is easier. However, the child should not be in such a situation. Gela thought that she would run away at the age of 3-4 years and could not believe that she was discovered so quickly. She lacks the free use of black magic to survive in this body, and she will still need powerful black magic to survive in this huge forest. The little girl saw something familiar. Especially all the trees were very familiar. Gela thought that there would be fruit trees in that direction. She crawled a little and they really were there, so the main character thought that she was born a fortune teller. Looking closely, the little girl saw a second pond in the mansion. The origins of magic, the passage of time, must follow traces that cannot be erased. Melaine said that his niece was not far away, and they would find her if they followed this thread of magic. Charente said that he would forgive him for invading his mansion, but only this time. But if they enter this house again without his permission, no matter for what reason, that will be the end for him. Charente put his sword to Melaine's neck. Charente said that Melaine would not leave the mansion intact if this happened again, and a man must remember this. Melaine didn't even notice Charente draw his sword. Charente hid the sword, and Melaine said that he would go first because something might happen. Charente turned to his father and asked where he was going. Deshar said that he was going to look for the baby. After all, because they don't even imagine how scared she was, having escaped with the help of magic, and therefore they need to hurry to find her. Charente couldn't believe his assumption when he saw the crystal in Deschart's hands. He asked if Deschart gave his crystal to the baby. Deschart said she was just a genius. Deschart jumped down, can't approach the gentleman. Charente ordered him to prepare everything while he followed his father. The servants accepted the order. The baby noticed the tracking magic. There are many types of tracking magic. It is needed in order to find something or someone. Sometimes it is used by beginners who know little about magic. It is not difficult, but now the main character cannot use it. But before, Gela could cast magic with one movement of her finger, and then Gela suggested that they hired a magician. She didn't understand how this could happen, because the clown family doesn't trust magic at all. But here, they hired a magician. And then the little girl remembered what Kishan had said. The boy said that he heard that the magicians had arrived to take care of their artifacts. It seems that many magicians were supposed to arrive, and the clowns probably asked for their help. But it was not clear why they were looking for her so persistently. If they pretended they didn't know each other, it would be great. The girl could not believe that they wanted to kill her so badly. And I realized that Charente Clown is a very stubborn idiot. And yet she did not understand why she ended up in the clown's garden. The main character had to move at least outside the territory of the mansion. With Gela's terrible abilities, the hardest thing right now was remembering the spells. Mages use magic by memorizing spells. It all depends on their abilities and on the image they have built in their heads. When the main character was Gela, she mostly used magic silently, imagining. But this small, weak body is not capable of something so complex. In a good way, the main character should feel the magic and learn it from the very basics. The problem was going through this whole process. Suddenly, the trail disappeared. Gela tried to say something, but nothing came of it, and she did not understand how she needed to learn spells with such pronunciation. Pronouncing an ancient language is difficult for anyone. Gela understood that her head would explode from cramming, but she did not expect that the pronunciation would be so terrible. It felt like this body had no language. Now the baby has little energy because she used magic. But she needs to find a place to stay for the night. And then Melaine found the baby. He asked if she was the same little niece of Duke Clown. The baby was silent. This voice was very familiar. Melaine said that she was younger than he thought. A long time ago, he knelt down and swore eternal loyalty and friendship to the main character. Hela despises him, curses him, Milena. She simply hated this man because of his betrayal. The baby has silverier eyes, and everything was right. It was not the rough, cold voice that she heard that time. This is another brave voice of Melaine. Melaine asked the baby if she used the magic stone that was in her hand to escape. Gela moved away with lightning speed. The man apologized and said that he just wanted to make sure. He couldn't believe that the little girl actually used the stone to teleport. The main character did not answer anything, and therefore Melaine said that she was very taciturn. He asked Sharina to at least say something because he didn't understand what had happened. Still the same voice, facial expression, bringing the eyebrows together, as if in embarrassment. Melaine sat down next to the baby and said that her uncle and grandfather would come soon. Until then, they must stay together. Gela was shocked that he was seriously asking the child. Gela was doomed, where if she opened her mouth, only stupid sounds would come out. The main character did not want to show Melaine this flawed side of her. The man said that he heard that Gela could not even think about using magic. When I was little. And of course he does too. The main character did not understand how he could smile like that, and how he could casually pronounce the name of the one he abandoned. Melaine also said that Gela said that she was the first person who managed to use magic at a young age, although she never told him what time she showed her abilities. The main character noticed that he was talking as if about a friend who was still alive, but in reality, this was not the case. Melaine blushed with a smile and thought that he had told the child too much. Melaine noticed that Sharina was afraid, and he said that he heard someone say that fear goes away when you talk to a person. This killed Gela, because she was the one telling him. The man noticed that it was probably hard for her, because she was born with the talent of a sorceress, and even in the clown family. Melaine suggested that this was the reason for the escape, but the little girl ran away because she almost died, and regretted that she had not thought about being caught like that. Everything was as always. Melaine stands in her way and doesn't help at all. Gela didn't understand why the hell she should sit with him. It feels as if he wants to cast a spell on her right now, but since the baby has no strength, she cannot do anything. But the enemy is very close. It would be 100 times better to sit in Sharente's arms than Melaine's. And the man said that he was strong, and there was something difficult about helping Gela. The main character wanted him to rid her of this topic. Whatever the reason, any regrets, Melaine had no need to bring Gela to this. She will not forgive him. Suddenly, someone called the baby. It was Deschard. Sharente noted that it was very good that the baby did not go very far. Gela was very annoyed by this because she was an accident. No one could have known that her adventures would end here, but Gela wanted to leave here. Using only the magic stone's magic was too presumptuous. When the main character became a child, she shed a sea of tears. Sharente came closer and began to wipe the baby's palms because they were dirty. Deschard did not understand why the baby was crying again. Sharente said she didn't cry. Deschard held out the crystal and told the little girl that he would give it to her and she would stop crying. Gela has no more strength. The main character needs a pocket because she didn't know where to put the stone if her grandfather gives it to her every day. The baby was infuriated that she couldn't take it. Deschard said that if the baby stopped crying, he would give her 10 times as many such trinkets. If it's 10, then Gela thinks the calculations are correct. The baby reached out to Deschard, and he said that her grandfather was nearby. Sharente didn't understand what was happening. Gela didn't know if it was a joke that Deschard Clown was in a good mood. Deschard took the baby in his arms and noticed that the baby was probably dirty. She had a talent for magic, and Deschard is glad that Sharina has it. Luckily, it looks like the main character won't be killed off. Gela noticed that Deshar could give her something to ease the sadness of not being able to take those 10 crystals. Besides, the little girl wanted to disappear right now. After all, Hela is next to Melon. Just the fact that she breathes the same air as him is disgusting and unacceptable. Deschart told Charente that they were returning. The man agreed. If you think about it this way, then the hierarchy between these two is defined. In general, Charente's abilities and reputation are sufficient. To defeat Deshar, this is enough, and after that just take the place of the Duke. However, Charente respects Deshar. Charente thanked Melin for saving them from many troubles. Charente allowed Melin to rest. The guy was happy to help find the baby. His tone remained the same, shameless. He reminded Gela of the moment when he said goodbye to her. Gela didn't understand why. When Melin was around, it was so hard for her to control herself. Melin said he wanted to know how old the baby was. Deshar said that Sharina is about 1 year old. Melin was impressed. After all, to have a talent for magic at such an age is very surprising. But he doesn't think that the baby will be able to wield it well in the future, because the amount of mana will increase, especially because she is in the Iran Empire, because they do not favor magicians. Melin said that if their family allows, he would like to take the baby under his wing. Then she will receive support from him and Salopia, and will become an outstanding magician. The guy said that it would be better for the baby to live in Salopia. In addition, Melin knows that the clown family does not favor magicians. Deshar asked how dare a stranger discuss his family's affairs. Melin felt a lot of tension. It seemed to him as if an invisible force was preventing him from breathing. If Charente Clown is a slowly approaching tsunami, then Deshar Clown is an avalanche that instantly devours everything in its path. Gela understood that if such a person was on her side, then everything was fine. People whom Gela considered enemies protect her, and the one whom the main character seemed to be able to trust became an enemy. It was funny, as if all this was planned by someone in advance. Melin said that he only speaks the facts, and he thinks that they know very well how magicians are treated in their empire. But if the lady studies in Salopia... Charente said that a man who went against his oath and betrayed the master expected him to trust someone from his family to him, and found this ridiculous. He said that even if it was a stone taken from his mansion, he would still never entrust the baby to this mediocrity. Charente told Melin that he would never give him even the stone. Melin said that it would be difficult for them if Gela became stronger. Her powers are very great. Deshar reported that he knew that Gela used dark magic, and Deckard warned her. And at first he was also confused and advised against using it, but she simply smiled back and said that she knew it was dangerous, and she was initially prepared for the worst. Gela was sure that there was nothing to worry about. Meeting Deschart and Charente Clown was not unexpected. It was a long time ago. For some time, Gela met with them to express her opinion, and also find out the situation in the country. The main character could not avoid meeting with them, although she could not stand them, because she realized that this painfully long period of her life had helped her gain experience. Deschard said that Gela was a much better leader than him. Gela thought she had already seen this expression on Melan's face. The Duke said that in his family his word is law, and even the Emperor cannot tell him. And if Melan tries to contradict him again, she will recognize the strength of the ducal family. This would sound disrespectful, but the main character was sure that he would say this with a smile even in front of the Emperor. In the Duke's territory, his word is law. Gela thought she saw a crown over Deschar Clown's head. He is truly an outstanding leader. The main character was wondering if she could wear a crown. Father and Charente began to leave. For the first time, the main character feels gratitude towards these people. The little girl called her grandfather, and Deschar asked what it was. Sharina didn't know what to do to thank him and tried to say thank you. She got it wrong. It was a long day. Charente turned to his father and told them that he had been thinking about something all week. Sharina used dark magic. Deschar was very busy and did not notice his son. Deschar was surprised to see Charente there. Charente looked at what his father was reading and saw that these were contracts for the purchase of magic crystals. Kant told Charente that his father was busy this week, and now it was clear to him why. Deschar said that Sharina just likes magic crystals, and they say she's talented so she won't have them. Sharente knew that the father paid a lot of attention to the baby, but she is not officially part of the family yet. Sharente noticed that among all the others, the imperial magic crystals were the highest quality. Deschartes said that he thought he should talk to the emperor. Deschartes didn't understand why Sharente was even here. Sharente wanted to talk about that book. This book was in Sharina's room. Sharente said he thinks the little girl used the book to use dark magic. Deschartes was shocked and did not want to believe it. He asked if his son was talking about Baroness Sullivan. Deschartes noted that there was no evidence. Sharente said that perhaps Baron Sullivan would become suspicious if he hired magicians. If not for their conflict with the Baroness, he would have had no one to suspect. Deschartes said he would check again just in case and have someone handle the evidence if there was any. And I also needed to talk to Sharina. Sharente wondered how his father was going to talk to the baby if she was only 1 year old. Deschartes said that he needed to go to the fortress, and Sharente must talk to the baby. Sharente thought that since the baby appeared in their family, nothing has been going smoothly. The little girl was very happy to see so many crystals. Vera asked if the little girl liked looking at the pebbles that much. Jella, of course, liked this, because there were a bunch of magic stones of level above B and everything in front of her. When the baby gets them, then he won't have to worry about the next couple of years. In addition to this, Gela has another reason to rejoice. Recently, the quality of food provided has improved and snacks are provided regularly. Vera praised the baby, and she was happy. The baby tried to say Vera's name. The maid said that she was Vera. When Sharina calls Vera by name, she usually blooms like a daisy. Thus, Gela studied Vera's behavior every day. This can also be considered as pronunciation training. Gela hoped that everything would be like this. Life with food, bed, pillow, and faith. It was perfect paradise. Someone knocked, and Sharina became very interested in who brought it there during the meal. It was Sharente. He said that the baby was in the process of eating. Gela didn't want to see him. Vera greeted the young lord. He asked Vera if she had eaten. The maid told the man that she had not eaten yet, but Sharente still ordered her to leave. The little girl did not understand what was happening. Sharente said that he would feed Sharina himself. The main character didn't want this, but Vera was worried. Vera bowed and said that she was leaving. Shireen did not want Vera to leave her alone. A lot of time has already passed, and how does the main character find out that he did not put poison in her complimentary food? Sharente said he was not so vile as to put poison in children's food. Gela was very surprised and suggested that he could read minds. But he is the one who can finish her off at will. Gela decided that if necessary, she would run away again. Sharente turned to the baby. He said that if Sharina uses magic crystals in his presence again, he will take everything from her. Gela really didn't want this and was worried about her stones. There was tension between them, but Sharina realized that she seemed to have no choice. She was glad it tasted the same, and Sharente wasn't trying to poison her. Sharente noted that unlike Balian, Sharina seems to be quite smart. He didn't expect this little girl to use black magic. Gela was horrified by what he already knew about black magic. Gela didn't understand why Sharente was laughing. When the man touched the baby, she wanted to scream. He was interested in how much the little girl understood him. Gela understood everything he said. The Duke said that it would be better if she told him who she was going to kill next. Gela didn't understand whether he realized that he was talking to a 1-year-old child. Even if Sharente told her she was a cute little genius, he wouldn't bat an eyelid. Balian clown. This man is still causing suffering to others after his death. Sharente told the little girl that she would stop doing meaningless things. He won't stalk or kill her. Sharina should just be nice and live her own life. This is what they call carelessness. The child's time dragged on so tediously. The main character would fall asleep only by closing her eyes or eating, or even trying to walk. 2 weeks have passed since Sharente Clown's angry warning, not since Sharente Clown had visited her. For no reason at all, he took on the responsibilities of Vera, feeding from a distance with a spoon. There was no point in hiding anymore. When the vile Sharente Clown takes her spoon, the main character gets very angry. Sharente is so disgusting and terrible that lately Hella has been practicing eating herself. The main character stole a spoon while eating while Vera was not looking. Vera told the baby that she had already arrived, and Sharina was very happy. Vera asked if the baby called her. Gela admired Vera every time she saw her, especially the smile on her face when she runs to the call of the main character. Vera said that Jarina pronounces her name very well. and notice that their lady is a genius. Jella adored Vera's excited muttering. Her body, which became smaller every day in this house, grew only thanks to Vera's compliments. She didn't even notice how it happened. Vera asked the lady to show her face. The maid brought the pudding. Gela didn't know how to live when she was so sad. She didn't understand why she couldn't eat on her own. Earlier, during lunch, Vera was shocked that the lady wanted to eat herself. It's time for spoon training. Gela decided that she could spill a little because it wasn't that much. Gela could not eat anything from the spoon she took into her mouth. It was because there was nothing on the spoon. Gela spilled everything and didn't even realize it, but she was confident that she would do well. Previously, her reflexes were praised, but now Gela has become a fool. It was possible to die that way. The main character didn't want to be so stupid. There is nothing worse than being the weakest and stupidest. In addition, Gela will be belittled if her abilities become known, and this is what bothers the main character the most. Vera said it was cream pudding with caramel syrup. It was absolutely delicious. Therefore, Vera wanted the baby to try it as soon as possible. Gela didn't know what to do if she was tempted by pudding. She was like a pig. The baby's mouth was filled with sweetness. For the main character, puddings were the best thing you could come up with. She decided that if she returned to Salopia, she would recruit bosses. Everyone in the clown family was a foodie. Vera told the little girl that the Duke told her to bring her when they finished their meal. Vera noticed that the baby was growing day by day. Today the main character is being carried by Vera again, and she really didn't like it. Although Gela loves Vera, if we talk about who is the best bearer, it is definitely Charente Clown. The main character, of course, did not want to admit it, but he has a son, so it is very convenient for her when he carries her. Well, about Vera, she just doesn't have much experience with kids. Vera told the little girl that they had arrived. This surprised Gela very much because it was a guest room. Now the girl understood why Vera was tense. The maid said that she had brought the lady, and Deschart ordered her to carry the baby to him. There were a lot of people sitting in the room, and the little girl didn't understand what kind of atmosphere this was. One has only to look at the look of Charente Clown. Deschart Clown is also chilling, and those two on the couch also look tense. Gela pulled Vera by the sleeve so that she would not leave. Deschart noticed that being among people was awkward and unusual. Gela mentally told Vera not to leave her if she had even a drop of conscience. The little girl seriously thought that Vera could not leave, even if she was a penniless child. The maid told the little girl that she would be outside the door. Sharina really didn't want this. The main character understands that Vera depends on her salary, so she will not listen to the little one. Gela also had to be paid for putting up with all this. Deschart turned to the baby. He asked her to play with the magic crystal. He looked good. Recently she has been given magic crystals of level A and higher. Level A is the lowest, but sometimes Gela receives crystals even at level C. Gela didn't understand where Deschart got so many of them. The woman said that she heard that he was purchasing crystals from the imperial family. It seemed to the main character that she had already seen this woman somewhere. Her face was just like that of the person she likes. But Gela decided that this could not be so, because this person can't be here. Deschart said that they recently talked about crystals, so he and the Emperor had a deal. She said that her father was keeping everything quiet again, that wine color of her hair, which barely covers her entire head. Silver eyes. The little girl was fascinated by them. Definitely, but she called Deschart's father. To call Deschart a clown that, she must be related to Charente Clown. The main character assumed that she was from the clown family, but Gela had never heard of a woman of that age in the clown family. There is no information about her. Gela needs to find out everything. And Gela was also wondering what kind of relationship she had with this man. Looks like he's a swordsman. Muscular body, serious face. The main character did not think that they were relatives. He does not have gray eyes. Deschart asked what was wrong with her, because she just suddenly started talking about Balian's child. The woman said that it was not as similar to Bali as she thought. Charente asked Ranian why she was here. The woman told him that he had not changed at all. He still talks to his sister the same way. The little girl couldn't believe that it was Ranian who was telling the truth. The Duke asked if Ranian had left the family. Ranian shrugged, and Charente said he would ask again. And again he asked why she was here. Runian said she was here to pick up her daughter Bali. After all, she is sure that she is being treated poorly here. Sharente asked who she was doing this for. The woman said she was afraid she would upset them, so she said so. And she doesn't need their permission. Bali asked her to do it. So there shouldn't be any problems with the law. This voice and these movements. It's true Runian. Gela admired Ranian. She was the soul of the battlefield, and also the love of the main character's life. Sharente asked if she was saying that a dead man told her that, and he noticed that he had never heard such nonsense in his life. Runian provided the letter and said she thought he wrote the letter in response to his sudden death, and not so long ago this letter fell into her hands. This surprised Deshar, and he asked if she was talking about Balian's letter. Rainian said he wanted her to take Sharina because Deshar and Sharente couldn't take care of her. Deshar noticed that the baby lives in abundance. Sharente said he wanted to say that too. Ranian said she would raise Sharina like her own daughter. It began to dawn on the main character that the cool Rainian wanted to adopt her. If this is true, then this is simply wonderful for the baby. She always hated family problems. Ranian is one of the few people whom Gela respects and honors. Cool Rainian, the soul of the battlefield. Books are written about her and songs are composed. Even when the sky is filled with darkness and the scarlet color of blood, she draws her sword and moves as if the moon had risen in the darkness. She worked as a mercenary, and even as a woman, she gained experience on the front lines. For Rainian, Gela is an enemy, although she is the same as her. There is a book about her history, the only book she published. Gela has as many as 3 books of the first edition. Gela acquired the sword that she used as an aspiring knight. This sword was sold at auction, and Gela bought it and carefully kept it. The main character collected everything that belonged to her. When her reputation reached its peak, people were selling her minifigures. Of course, Gela collected them and placed them in her workshop. She couldn't believe that Ranian was a member of the clown family. It would be wonderful if Ranian became Sharina's mother. Ranian saw that the baby was reaching out to her and assumed that the baby understood her. The woman took Sharina in her arms, and she simply began to shine. Gela was glad to be in Rainian's arms. The baby did not expect to meet Rainian in this body, so she pressed herself close to the woman. She has strong arms and body, but she is colder than Hela thought. It was incredible that she was related to the clowns. Ranian asked the little girl if she would prefer to go with her. Sharina wanted to say yes, but she couldn't. But mentally, the little girl was ready to follow Rainian to the ends of the earth. The main character did not understand how a person could be so wonderful. It was incredible because Runian was also very beautiful. Ranian noted that it is very good that the baby is not shy about strangers. Sharente said he wouldn't put up with this and ordered Runian to just give up. The woman turned to the Duke and said that she had already told him that she had not come here for his permission. Deschart said that she would not dare to do anything in front of him, because they take good care of Balian's child. Runian said that this simply could not happen because this is the clown family, and they won't be able to raise this child. Ranian told her father that he knew she couldn't give birth on her own anyway. Deschart said that Sharina is special, and that's why she won't be able to raise her the way she should. The daughter asked Deschart if magic was the reason. Balian wrote in a letter that since his wife has magic, Sharina also has it. Deschart asked if he really wrote that in the letter. Sharente said that the knights have enough power to destroy any evil. Hela had never felt divine power. Therefore, she never thought about becoming a knight. Among knights and priests, there are ways to hide divine power at a certain level. If you look closely, you can see a comet in those dark pupils. After all, this is a high-class knight. This means that Gela almost failed her goal by making a mistake in using magic. The man asked if he was interfering, and Sharente firmly said yes. Dark archmages and priests are on opposite sides. If they come into contact briefly, their abilities may disappear or deteriorate. A priest or knight will become weak and helpless in front of a strong archmage. Conversely, dark archmages will be powerless against a powerful knight or priest. Dark archmages and priests cannot coexist. They negatively influence each other, and this guy seems to know it. The little girl began to call her grandfather. She wanted Deschart to help her, because Gela's dark magic might disappear if she stays here longer. Sharente noticed that the child answered them. Sharente told her to leave because there was no bad attitude. Ranian asked if he really told her that this family, which cares so much about the purity of blood, still treats the child well. Sharente said he could think what he wanted, but the baby's last name was still Clown. Deshar asked her to leave, since taking the child away was bad for herself. Gela didn't understand what was happening because she thought it was connected with the night, and Gela couldn't believe that now they were on her side. Runyan asked why. Charente said he thought the person next to him already knew the answer. Ranian exchanged glances with the knight. Her disappointed expression on her face was like a knife to the heart of the main character. If it weren't for dark magic, Gela would have left. But then she thought that perhaps she would leave this night. Ranian said that something happened, so she was forced to leave them. The main character realized that she had abandoned Sharina. Gela was sure that she would bring her more joy than that night. Ranian said goodbye to the baby. The little girl eagerly waved her hand. Gela wanted to apologize, because she loves Ranian very much. But this is not enough to satisfy the hatred of the main character. Gela hoped that then she would recognize her. All Sharina can do now is hide and wait. After all, if Sharina's body grows a little more, she will be able to use magic. After Ranian's visit, the mansion was filled with calm. Time flowed very smoothly. And now Gela is already 3 years old. The little girl sat and drew. Kishan came and asked Sharina if she was there. So this is already Gela's 2nd year in Sharina's body. She is now 3 years old. The baby hid because she didn't like meeting him. Kishan, who tirelessly watches Sharina, is now 7 years old. Gela noticed that the older he gets, the more beautiful he becomes, and he really enjoys looking for Sharina. This annoys her. It was a pity that Gela's ability to move in space was still at a low level. The little girl had a constant stupidity, to draw and nod her head. When Sharina grew up, she could calm down without a pacifier, but if she were careless, she would act like a child. When the baby had thoughts that required concentration, there was nowhere to go without a pacifier. But Gela is still glad that she doesn't need a pacifier for most things in everyday life. First, the little girl had to get rid of this annoying thing, that is, Kishan. The baby teleported, and fortunately she can now walk on her own. The maid accidentally touched Sharina and apologized very much, justifying it by saying that she was very small. Of course, the maids still ignore the baby. Charente and Deshar Clown don't know this. As soon as Sharina learned to walk, she avoided them, and they rarely see each other. Everyone has lost interest in Sharina and is returning to their previous activities. Deshar Clown often called her to tell him he was grandfather. He treated Sharina and gave her magic stones. Hela didn't know what was good about calling a useless child. It looked like the owner was playing with his pet. The maid said that the girl's mother was a gypsy. They said endlessly that Sharina had spoiled their dear young master. The servants did not understand why the child was kept in a mansion without a last name. The main character didn't care. But these words still infuriated me, so the little girl really wanted to get out of here. After being caught using black magic, Gela cannot kill those she doesn't like. But her mana recovery abilities are also slower than expected. It is possible that this is due to daily practice with magic. Now the baby can use more types of magic than in infancy, but this is not enough. Gela needs the level she had before her rebirth, and practice takes a lot of time. But Sharina doesn't want to be in this mansion. She wondered if she should talk to Charente about this. And then the little girl heard Charente's voice, who asked how long Sharina would stay here. She decided to take a peek and saw Deshar and Charente there. Deshar asked how old Sharina was. The Duke replied that it was 3 and noted that it was time to let her go. Deshar noticed that his son was right. Gela didn't understand where they were going to send her. Charente noted that since, no matter how, the blood of the clowns flows in her, she must attend the academy until she comes of age. Gela wondered if there was such a thing. And then she remembered that she had heard that nobles sent illegitimate or useless children to nurseries at the academy. Gela didn't understand how they dare to do this. The main character thought that it would be better to leave her at home. Deshard noted that he is confident that they will gradually find a way out of the situation. Deshar asked his son when the deadline for this year's admission was. Charente saw Sharina. The girl just wanted people to leave her alone. Gela was glad that she could eat deliciously and live independently. Thanks to the generosity of Deshar Clown, Sharina will not need money until she comes of age. The baby asked if she would be thrown out. Deshard did not answer. Sharina asked when she would be thrown out. She wanted Deshar to speak, because then she would be able to find out about the orphanages in advance. The little girl called her grandfather. Gela wanted to at least prepare herself before she was thrown out. Deshar asked when he said that. He said that he just wanted to send the little girl to the academy. Deshar asked Sharina to pretend she didn't hear anything because nothing had been decided yet. Sharina said that this is tantamount to them wanting to throw her out. Hela wanted them to admit that they just wanted to get rid of her. It's a waste of time to spend a wonderful youth in the academy. Gela wanted Sharente to quickly tell her to just leave. Gela didn't understand why Sharente froze. The little girl started screaming for them to just get rid of her. The main character was infuriated by her blurred pronunciation. The main character did not understand why they wanted to send her there. If something irritates them, then they can simply get rid of it so that it can start a new life. If Gela had been in their place, she would have instantly gotten rid of useless people like Sharina. Yes, and the child can be given to someone to take care of. But to be more harsh, she would have thrown the child into an orphanage or into the slums and let her live. Sharente asked Sharina why she was walking here. The little girl said she was going for a walk. Sharente understood her and told her to come back after her walk. Gela didn't understand when they would throw her away. Deshar turned to Sharina and gave her a magic stone. It was definitely a sea-level stone, and he just gives the baby such things. It was a benefactor. Sharina was very grateful. Deshar told the little girl that he didn't hate her. However, there are irreversible circumstances, and I asked if she understood this. The main character wanted him to stop making excuses. They love her, but due to insurmountable circumstances, they will turn away from her. Gela didn't understand the difference between these words and the way Sharina's dad behaved. The main character believed that Deshar Clown was not a coward, but she was wrong. Anyway, with the magic stones, Sharina decided to leave and smile. Gela decided that she would find out about orphanages. She wanted to go to the orphanage furthest from the capital. He must be on a mountaintop where rumors cannot reach. The girl decided that she would probably find something in the library. The little girl drew words on the cards that she left. Everything was ready. Since each drawing will take up the entire sheet, she can only draw them all on a large number of sheets. Gela didn't know if it would work. It's small, but they can probably find it if they look carefully. And they find out that Sharina left it. However, she didn't think she would stay with the clowns, and it was better for her to just leave. But they may not even recognize her handwriting. The main character used red to make it more noticeable. Gela wasn't even sure. She needs to at least say something. She considered herself kind. Sharente Clown is smart, so he'll understand. The main character did everything that was required. Now she just needs to leave the house, which she warned about. According to information from the library, there are many orphanages in the Empire. In the capital, there are enough of them too, but Gela decided to move further away. This time, they can kill her for real. The further the better. With Gela's current abilities, she would have to travel through space about 5 times. Luckily, she has magic stones and has trained a lot. The modern world is completely different from this. They can put things in there and take them out, so it can store things. But even with spells, it will be difficult to create space without abilities. So the main character has only one path. She needs to feed her imagination. She can't put it into words, so she can only imagine it in her head. Magic doesn't work with such big words. The strength will be much weaker than at the beginning. It was simple, but after a week of hard work, she succeeded. All that was left was to leave the mansion. Vera asked the little girl if she was here. The maid brought food. This was exactly who the main character needed. Gela heard a lot from Vera, who cared about Sharon the most. It was a pity to leave her when Sharina was only 3 years old. The baby told Vera to live happily. Vera asked again and said that she, of course, was happy because Sharina was here and the baby had nothing to worry about. Gela said that she, too, would live happily. The maid told the little girl to eat a lot and grow big and become a sorceress. Gela was not sure about the others, but Vera should have given her a gift. Vera said that she was already leaving and wished the baby good dreams. Sharina turned to Vera. She thanked the maid. This confused Vera, and she said that they would see each other tomorrow. The main character decided that she would go now. Meeting them was a mistake from the very beginning. Gela didn't want to deal with this family at all. Therefore, the decision to leave is the right one. Gela finally escapes with mixed feelings. Sharente and Deshar Clown aren't as bad as she thought. Sometimes they cared about the main character, and Kishan too. Gela was sorry to leave what she had been working on, and the saddest thing is leaving Vera. Barrier of space, the promise of time travel. The land on the other side cannot be reached, so show the hidden path to the main character. House of Luck. Finally, the main character is here. To use magic, she needed to rest every 3 hours. The baby got here after 5 teleportations. Gela was tired from the 10-hour journey. If she stays here, someone will think she was abandoned and take her with them. Gela spent all her magic stones on this. The woman opened the doors and did not understand what this child was doing here. Gela understood that she needed to make herself look as pitiful as possible. She started asking for food. The little girl pitifully asked if she could eat here. Gela is not used to formalities. A nice-looking woman and a naive boy. They looked alike, and so the girl decided that they looked like relatives. The woman asked who said that. The little girl wanted to say that it was the unlucky Charente and Deshar who gave her these magic stones. The little girl said it was her uncle, but all she got from Charente Clown was stress. Gela said that her uncle told her to wait here and then she would get food. This surprised the woman very much, and she asked who the uncle of this baby was. She felt sorry for the child because she assumed that the baby had been abandoned, but that was not the case. The main character left them and was not abandoned. She is no longer weak and helpless, and no one will abandon Gela. The woman took the baby in her arms and asked if she wanted to live with her. Being here is already a success. Charente won't come here anyway, so don't be upset. Maybe he'll be happy when he finds out she's gone. Charente Clown was the first to praise her. The girl said everything was great. The woman said to go with her. Gela didn't know whether she was mistaken or not, but it seemed to her that the woman was excited. In the morning, Vera went into the baby's room and asked the lady if she was up. The maid noticed that the rays of the sun were so beautiful today, so she asked if she would like to take a walk after breakfast. But the room was quiet, and Vera found it strange, because Sharina usually greets her or mutters something under her breath. It was so quiet, as if there was no one in the room. Vera threw off the blanket and realized that the baby was gone. There were leaves on the bed on which it was written that she had left and goodbye. Vera wondered if the little girl wrote it herself. There was a huge war in the Empire 10 years ago. The main reason was the unification of lands. In the end, the Empire won the war. But the damage was serious. It was obvious that more orphanages were needed and the condition of all was terrible. Luckily, there was still one clean and comfortable shelter left. This place is regularly sponsored, so its infrastructure is better than other shelters. The little girl noticed that the animals were calmly roaming around the garden. Here, the nannies treat children well, and the children themselves look decent. Hella decided that she must have made the right choice. The woman said she still doesn't think she knows the baby's name. She asked if she had a name. The main character has 2 names, but she can't name a single one, or maybe she needs to say something so that she doesn't find out. The little girl introduced herself by the name of Helsha. The main character was in a hurry and connected 2 names, Hella and Sharina. She thought it sounded normal. The woman said it was a wonderful name. The nanny told Helsha that they should take a bath first. The woman was shocked and said that the baby was really good. Gela was completely clean. The woman said that she would introduce her to the others. Gela didn't want this. After all, it will be a meeting with a crowd of children like Kishin. The baby was sick of children. The main character understood that she was unlikely to live alone in a room, and she didn't think that she would miss her soft bed so early. But Gela told herself not to be a weakling because she would only be here for 2-3 years. The nanny introduced the baby to the playroom. Even though Kishin is a talker, at least his nose isn't running. The nanny told her to go play with her friends. The little girl said well, but the woman corrected her and said that she needed to say well, headmistress. Gela was surprised that she needed to adjust her answers. If her memory serves her, her family members fought in the same way. The war ended 20 years ago, but its consequences are visible in the country. Some were still reeling from the loss. Then it is logical to fight for power. Wars are disgusting. Gela said okay to the headmistress. The woman was very glad that the baby was learning so quickly. She asked Kelsha to feel at home, but Gela didn't understand why she was talking about her house. Deshar shouted and asked what she was talking about. He shouted at Vera for losing her child again. Vera said with tears in her eyes that everything was wrong. Today, the maid came to see how Sharina fell asleep yesterday and to wake her up, but when Vera entered the room, the baby was not there. Charente asked his father what happened. Deshar turned to Charente and said that Sharina was missing. He asked again. Charente thought about how he had told the little girl 100 times not to use magic without permission. Charente said he thought she had gone out somewhere and would be back soon. Vera told the Duke that this time everything was different and the lady left a letter. This surprised the Duke, and he asked again, noting that she had not yet learned to write. Vera provided the letter. Charente read, "I'm leaving, bye." Charente asked if she left after leaving this note and assumed that she was playing treasure hunt and left this note. They didn't know what to do because Sharina could get into trouble. Deshar told Vera to go rest while he took care of everything. He didn't understand whether Sharina really left home. Charente noticed that her favorite magic stone was also missing, so apparently yes. The Duke asked his son if he really thought so. For a child living here in Chocolate to give up everything and leave like that, there is only one reason. Kant was asked if anyone had seen her in the evening, but the man said no. But a couple of days ago, he heard a lady say that she was looking for information about orphanages in the reading room. Charente was surprised that she could read. Kant said she could read all these books, and he didn't pay attention because he thought she was just wandering around. The young Duke did not understand how Sharina could read, because no one taught her. Charente couldn't believe that such a small child could be so smart. Looking at her clumsy scribbles, people will think they are drawings, but if you look closely, you can see letters. Kant was ordered to collect data on the shelters. Kant had to find her, but keep it secret. And it's not so difficult to find a baby, because there are not many shelters, and it's not difficult to find a child with silver eyes. No matter how smart Sharina is, she is still a child, and they will find her instantly. But Charente didn't know why it bothered him so much. He told his father not to worry because he would find her soon. The headmistress asked all the children to stand in a row. Gela understood that something was wrong here, since they were not so obedient. The children seemed scared, but at the same moment they are full of anticipation. The woman was handing out candy. Looking closely, Gela saw that they were handing out candy. Gela wanted it to be given to her too. The woman told Lila that she was smart and asked her to go play there. She didn't know where her candy was. Gela hasn't eaten pudding for several days and will soon go crazy. The headmistress told the little girl to be patient for a while because soon she would go to a more favorable place. This surprised her very much because not even 3 days had passed since Gela arrived and she already had to leave. But the main character understood that nothing could be done, and she would just have to come to terms with it. The woman said that everyone who received candy should follow her. A girl approached Gela and said that she was apparently the headmistress's next target. She said not to trust that woman every time. When the same cute children were here, they all disappeared in less than a month. The girl didn't understand what kind of horror stories they had. They said that no one knew where they had gone, and one day she takes the children away under the pretext of buying beautiful clothes, but none of them returns. The main character noticed that, judging by her frightened expression, it didn't look like she was lying. Gela thought this was a good orphanage, but it turns out not. That is, in fact, the director just wants to sell Gela at a higher price, saying that she will supposedly go to a better place. The main character believed that the manager was a good woman. In any case, she shouldn't have been weirded out by her appearance alone. The little girl pointed to the children and asked where they had gone. They said they were being put up for adoption, but she wasn't sure. For every time the same person comes, he visits them once every 3 months or 6 months. The little girl asked if they were being driven, but the girls said that they were lucky, because children their age were not called anymore. To be precise, they seemed to be about 11 or 12 years old. Apparently, older children are not in demand. Gela, of course, had heard a lot about the fact that there are institutions that pass themselves off as orphanages. But at the same time, they do just crazy things. But Gela never thought that she would so easily end up in a place where people are trafficked. Gela did not know any other shelters. But fortunately, compared to the current order, Gela can easily go wherever she feels like it. She won't be able to walk, but she will be able to run. She started to run away. There are 2 types of human trafficking. The first is when children are bought by married couples or aristocrats who cannot have their own. This is similar to an adoption that is not subject to official procedures, leaving no paper evidence. Not a bad way to pass off a child as your own. In this case, the smaller the child, the better. and the second is when they sell to dangerous people. In this case, there is not even any guarantee that the children will survive. Leaving the shelter was already a feat, but finding another one was even more difficult. Gela could not believe that there was no normal shelter where she could stay for only 2 years. The man told the little girl that they would see each other on the appointed day. It's not like the robes they give out to wizards in Solofia, so it wasn't clear where he was from. He greeted the main character. This young man does not look good at all, and it seems like dark energy is emanating from him. The unknown person noticed that this was a very unexpected surprise, and the baby was not on the list he received. The number of abundances and curses clinging to him is neither 1 nor 2. Gela couldn't even imagine how many people he had to kill. The main character assumed that he was a black magician. It was not at all clear who it was. The man sat down next to the main character and said that he was just looking for a child with the same magical abilities as Gela. Judging by his voice, he is about 30 or 40 years old. This meant that he was quite experienced. Gela decided that it was worth trying to attack him, even as a child. And then, this is the most powerful weapon of children. It's easy to start a tantrum. The main character screamed that she didn't want to go anywhere. Gela is only 3 years old and she can't do anything more. Black magic is not particularly useful in the fight against a person who is energetically strong. If a person is not a powerful enough warlock, then he will simply wallow in the enormous darkness of the enemy. The man said he thought the little girl had no choice. The little girl said that she didn't care and wouldn't go anywhere. Gela is too beautiful. She won't even take a step. Even in novels, the most interesting characters die first, but Gela could not even imagine that she would become one of them. You need to understand where you should run. The main thing is where this type is not. Gela was able to see such a powerful sorcerer for the first time in her entire life. He said that the girl was too gifted for an ordinary child, and he has one request for her. If the main character makes even a slight mistake now, it could cost her her life. He even smiles like a real villain. The headmistress burst in and asked what was happening. The man asked the lady to sell the baby. Money was not a problem. The woman said she didn't know how to tell him. He said that she was going to put the baby up for auction, and he will pay twice as much as anyone else. Gela was shocked that they already wanted to sell her. The woman said that the baby had been here for about 2 days, so she had not had time to undergo proper training. The stranger asked how long it would take her to complete this training. The woman said that no matter what, he would have to wait a month. The man said 2 weeks. The main character did not understand what training would be like in 2 weeks. The headmistress said she would try. The main character did not understand why she always manages to get into some kind of trouble. Gela believed that a 3-year-old child was allowed to face an evil world where there were no hopes or dreams. Gela would have been indignant at why she had to be born into this world if she had been a child. Or maybe she left the mansion too soon. Sharina realized that it was probably worth staying there until the academy itself. Everything would be different. Now she needs to cope with these difficulties. The man said with a smile that they would see each other next time, but the little girl said threateningly that no. After these words, the man turned sharply to the child. He grabbed Sharina's hand. Gela realized that this was magic. He put the bracelet on the baby's hand, and then the main character began to understand that this was to control the spell. The man said that she probably had magical abilities from birth, and she is not at all like others, which means it will be easier to train her. It feels like Gela is no longer able to use magic, and her body is so weak. The man said that he would come for her in 2 weeks. The woman called the baby Lila and told her that all this happened because she did not listen to the director. Therefore, she should sit locked up and think about her behavior. Gela didn't understand why she was always like this. The reason why she is alone in this dark room is quite simple. Today, the headmistress gave her a strange order, but the little girl refused. The headmistress said that the little girl should hit the innocent girl, but Gela couldn't just do it. Moreover, I didn't understand why anyone would beat a baby who didn't do anything. However, other children unquestioningly do everything that the headmaster asks. If she tells them to wait, they wait. And if he orders them to hit a child they were just playing with, they will definitely do it. She gives them candy for good behavior. The kids are just obsessed with getting another one. Gela assumed that this was the upbringing the headmistress was talking about. About 30 years have passed since the end of the war. But if you take into account the small battles that occurred after this, then only 10. During the war, children suffered the most when they became orphans. They had nothing, no food, no shelter. If it weren't for the headmistress, they would simply die of hunger. She convinced them of this, each time making them painfully feel this fact. At the same time, she easily brainwashed them that they should obey her. Gela assumed that this woman was going to do the same to her, but she is invincible like the warrior Gela. The little girl decided to first use the magic of teleportation in order to get out as quickly as possible. Nothing happened, and the little girl realized that she could not use magic. Who would have thought that, having left home, she would end up in a shelter for human trafficking, where she would definitely meet a strange sorcerer and a magic bracelet would be put on her. Now the main character was unable to use even minor magic. How this bracelet, which is difficult to find in everyday life, ended up in the man's hands was not clear. The main character needed to get a good look at his face. She remembers all the powerful archmages. Gela didn't know who he was to emit such dangerous energy. All of Gela's hopes for possible liberation simply evaporated after she no longer had the right to use magic. Here's some free time. Gela can be completely calm because she will not be killed until she is sold to someone, but if she goes back, there is a chance of dying. Hela could already imagine how happy the house must be now that she had disappeared. Thinking about this, something inside Gela seemed to snap. In fact, after thinking again, Gela realized that it would probably be better to leave home after entering the academy rather than now. It was too reckless. Being a 3-year-old child, the main character is not particularly able to do anything. If Gela had known that something like this would happen later, she would have endured it. No matter how much she racks her brains, it seems that the main character is in a completely hopeless situation. Gela decided that she just needed to be obedient and run away as soon as the opportunity arose. In the meantime, the main character should sleep. Sleep is the best way to restore strength. After that, Gela obeyed the manager. And today, a week later, the woman asked Lala to stretch out her arms. The main character was faced with this. Gela wasn't scared at all. On the contrary, she was calmer than ever. The girl felt as if she had returned to the distant past. Near the end of the war, when Gela was still a young woman, she found herself on the battlefield. Gela understood that this was a test of how far the children could go, unquestioningly listening to the orders given. A method of education with which a person can command children as he pleases, as long as there is candy in the hands of an adult. The manager perfectly tamed them with this. She gave a good impression, as if she could forgive the children anything. And if the child obeys her properly, he will definitely be rewarded, even if it's actually just candy. When Gela thinks about her childhood, she can come to terms with this order. A time when dead people were lying everywhere, and she was left to starve and drink rotten water. Compared to the past, something like this doesn't hurt the baby one bit. Gela managed to come up with an escape plan. The moment the sorcerer removes this bracelet from her in order to take advantage of her, then Gela will be able to take the teleportation stone and go anywhere. The woman asked her to do it already. The little girl understood that she would have to be patient a little. The baby heard a very familiar voice, gentle and godly, without the slightest flaw. Charente said that if even one drop of blood fell, she would never return home. His voice is so confident and calm that Sharina feels bad. Charente threw the guy aside. The headmistress rushed to him. The main character was a little surprised. Sharina asked why. In fact, Gela was a little surprised, and she would never have thought that Charente himself would show up here. Charente sat down next to the baby and asked her why she left home. The moment she saw his face, she felt a strange feeling of relief, at least relieved that she could get out of here. Gela realized that she had made a big mistake. She overestimated her abilities too much. Gela could not even imagine how helpless a 3-year-old child could be. It was so impulsive and reckless of Gela when she ran away from home. The little girl asked Charente if he would kill her. The Duke said that he had already said that he would never kick her out or kill her until she did something stupid. It was he who said that then, and the little girl asks because that's exactly what she did. Charente took Sharina in his arms. He examined the baby and assumed that there were no other wounds. The children began to shout at the Duke so that he would not offend the headmistress. For children, the headmaster is the best mentor and the only lifeline, and even if she sends them to the very depths of hell, they will still follow her. He didn't understand how Sharina ended up in an orphanage if she was so healthy. Gela herself did not expect to end up here. Apparently, the main character acted extremely stupidly, but she would never utter a word. Sharente asked Sharina if they would go or if the baby wanted to stay here. Gela said that she wanted to go home, and she noticed that if she stayed here even a little longer, she would definitely go crazy. The main character had to go back 10 steps, at the same time think about what will happen next. The woman began to shout at the Duke and asked who he was, since the baby was under the care of an orphanage. Sharente said that very soon she would find out who he was. In the meantime, she can run as fast as she can, preferably further away, if she wants to stay alive. Sharente and Sharina rode together in a carriage. The Duke did not say a word during the trip. He must be very angry. Still, in gratitude for her care, the secret documents remained untouched. Gela decided to take pity on him, although she still couldn't find them herself. The Duke asked the little girl why she left home. Gela was angry because he and Deshar themselves said that they would send her to the academy, but she didn't want that. For the main character, pronouncing the word academy was very difficult, and no one even realizes how difficult it is to speak with such a short tongue. Sharente asked if she did all this because of the academy. The baby confirmed this. She wanted the Duke to raise her until she was 5 or 7 years old, and later she would definitely help him. Still, the question was different. The girl didn't know how best to ask him about this. Hela turned to Sharente. She asked if he hated her. The main character noticed that her pronunciation is not so bad. She guessed she had been going over it in her head too often. Simulation is sometimes important too. It seemed to Gela that for the first time in her life, she had uttered the name Sharente Clown. The Duke said it was so. Gela knew in advance that this answer was inevitable. Sharente said he hated the baby's father and mother. He hated them all and even her sister. The Duke does not tolerate those who do not adhere to duty, and those who refuse to fulfill their own responsibilities, and he behaves as he pleases. Sharente speaks softly and easily, but his voice is like ice, just as cold. Most likely he puts too much effort into just saying, "I hate you." Still, Gela didn't understand why there were so many things he hated. Sharente is not some 7-year-old. Gela, I don't even know since when he's been so picky. The little girl asked if he could raise her until she was 7 years old. It was still 3 years, and therefore the main character decided that she had greatly overestimated herself. She should save up some magic until she turned 7. Sharente assumed that she was going to run away later. Gela confirmed this. Sharente was surprised. The main character did not understand why he was so surprised. She decided to speak directly, since the two of them were here. Sharina is going to leave when she turns 7 years old, and Sharente, in turn, just has to turn a blind eye to this. The little girl said that he hated her, and she hated him. Sharente asked again. Gela was angry because he himself had just said that he couldn't stand her, but he didn't seem to particularly like the fact that she couldn't stand him either. The main character said that she hates everyone. The Duke asked if something was wrong with her at home. She didn't like a lot of things. For example, if we compare her room with Kishan's room, it is several times smaller, and therefore there is not enough space for the baby. One way or another, even the servants allow themselves to look for her. But the most unfair thing is that she doesn't really know how to speak. The girl noticed that the Duke sighed and did not understand what it meant. At first she assumed that he was not going to raise her until she was 7 years old. She considered Sharente very petty because he has a lot of money, and so Gela suggested changing the number to 5 years. She considered herself very kind. Walian changed a lot when he suffered a childhood accident. He loved to play with the peasants, roll around in the mud, and did not behave at all as befits his position. They were born in the same house, but he took too many liberties, and one day he stumbled. In the end, he was in critical condition and died. Sharente said that Sharina could live in peace as long as she was in the clown house. She would be under Sharente's personal protection. Gela refused. She had never seen anyone succeed by simply standing still. She is tired of constantly putting up with what is happening in this miserable world and life, just like the wizards did when Salofia did not exist, and when as a child, during the war, the main character had to survive, a life in which she will definitely be betrayed as soon as she trusts someone. Whether it is a real family or a friend, before a possible benefit, they will definitely stab a loved one in the back. Moreover, Gela is not even a real member of their family, and spiritually she is a completely different person. Jella has no desire to be protected by Charente. She has been through too much, and she can decide who she should trust. Charente said that if she ran away from home again, he would not look for her. This was exactly what Gela wanted. Charente noticed that she really did. Sharina asked how he found her. No matter how powerful the clown family was, Gela never thought that they would be able to find her in such a place. What Duke would think of going to a place of human trafficking alone? Moreover, she didn't understand whether she could just show up and leave everything as it was. The little girl asked if the headmistress would run away. Charente smiled and said that only if he could. Gela thought that if he could find her, without leaving a single clue, then finding the headmistress would not be difficult for him. In fact, the main character managed to film the coordinates of the manager and her son. But to be precise, she grabbed their hair and hid it in the sole of her shoe. She did this to put a curse on them. The more people commit atrocities, the more sins accumulate. Because of this, dark energy becomes stronger. Hela called Charente. The little girl showed him her bracelet. It seemed to her that the magic was blocked even by a simple touch. Charente noted that this is not something that a simple orphanage director can get. Charente asked Sharina who put it on her. The little girl said she didn't know. The Duke realized that most likely a stranger had come. The main character agreed with this and said that some man put it on her. Charente assumed that the person who took advantage of this was a magician. Hela didn't understand why such a smart Duke was looking for her, and it seemed that if she left the letter and left, then everything would be fine. Sharina asked if Charente had seen her letter. Charente said he saw it. Gela asked why he then went to look for her. It seemed to her that if anyone went to look for her, it would be Deshar or Vera, because they loved her the most. But Gela had no idea that Charente Clown himself would go on the search. He hated her, and in turn, Gela showed her dislike for him with all her appearance. Charente said he didn't know, and added that he probably should have just left her. Charente asked her to sleep, and said that he would call the doctor as soon as he arrived. The little girl said she didn't want to. Charente said she should sleep anyway. He, of course, cannot stand even the slightest bad manners. Charente had a very soothing voice. Charente's voice was so enveloping. The man said that he was not so cold-blooded as to neglect those who had not yet grown up. Gela noticed that this is not because he is like that, but because the people around him live a decent and good life. The sudden drowsiness quickly lulled me to sleep, and the warmth of someone else's body patting her on the back did not leave her main character for a long time, and she went into a deep and sweet sleep. Seeing the expression on Deshar's face, the little girl understood that he would attack her right now. He asked Sharina if she liked the academy. Of course she didn't like it because there's nothing good there. Students are required to live in an academy that contains too many rules, such as the curfew. Deshar asked what the problem was in just saying it. It was very difficult for Gela to speak with such terrible pronunciation. Sharina apologized. Be that as it may, the main character is still to blame. Charente corrected her and said sorry. Gela didn't understand what it was, because he didn't care about her speech all this time. She could not address members of the clown family with respect. In fact, she always behaved respectfully during negotiations. But Charente still expected something different. Charente said no pudding. Gela didn't understand how he could behave like that with pudding, her only happiness. Eating it was bliss when I was in a bad mood. And Charente, of course, has money and power, and he can feed himself on whatever he wants. But Sharina can only do it once a day, and only if Vera brings it to her. Sharina apologized. Deshar noticed that their Sharina was not herself because bowing out for the sake of some pudding was not at all like her. Deshar said he was worried about the baby. Gela said that she left a letter. The Duke asked her if this could be called a letter. The main character agreed with him but still considered it a letter despite the fact that there were only a few words. It seems that Gela miscalculated everything. Namely, that she couldn't really escape and made a lot of things happen. Deshard noted that, as he said earlier, nothing has been decided yet, and he suggests discussing the issue about the academy a little later. The baby said 7, and Deshar asked if she wanted to say that she would go there at 7 years old. But Gela planned to simply leave home, but she won't talk about escaping in advance. But since she shared this with Charente Clown, she would have to lie a little. Sharente told her father that the little girl said she was going to leave home as soon as she turned 7. Gela was very angry that he told this. Now she understood where this sneak Kishin came from, exactly the same as Sharente. Deshar asked if she would leave the same way as this time. The baby wanted to become a baby again. Hela decided that she should probably talk about this more intelligently. And as long as she has a pacifier, everything around her seems not so important. Deshar asked Sharina if something was bothering her at home. In the Empire, it is forbidden to add names to the family register of a person who is already dead. Since Valiant Clown was already considered dead at that time, there is simply no evidence of Sharina's existence. However, it is assumed that it is possible to get into the official register by becoming a dependent of the same Sharente or Deshart. The main character will leave this mansion as soon as she has the strength to take revenge. It seems that he is slowly starting to get used to this version of himself. Either way, she did a great job. The baby asked how Vera was doing, and Deshar said that she was terribly shocked by her disappearance, so she decided to take a little break. She knows about Sharina's return and is already waiting. Sharina should have apologized to her. Gela asked if she could go. She decided to pretend to be pretty, and the magic stone itself would be in her hands. This is their relationship. Gela is simply using him, and Deshar is trying in every possible way to be nice in order to make amends for his younger son, or for Sharina. But the little girl called him a coward. If they really want to gain the child's trust and love, then first they should stop treating him like a pet. But Deshar will never know if Sharina is sincere. Meanwhile, the headmistress was being scolded by a man. The woman said that it was her fault and gave back the money that she was given as collateral. The man noticed that the headmistress knows that he does not like it when people lie to him. He asked who did it. The woman said that she did not know, and some man came and took her with him. He had black hair and silver eyes. He is tall and his clothes look expensive, so he is probably a nobleman. The man said that this was Sharente Clown of the Clown family. Of all the aristocrats the man-magician knows, he is the only one who fits this description. He had never heard that he had a daughter. The woman did not understand how the clown's daughter ended up in front of the walls of the orphanage. She said he was probably her uncle. After all, when Lila first came here, she mentioned her uncle. The man became thoughtful and did not believe that it was his niece. But if you think about it this way, the Clown family attached more importance to origins. However, people usually keep quiet about the fact that the 2 children of the head of the family renounced the family. And only Sharente Clown, on whose shoulders a huge responsibility fell, became a real clown. It doesn't take a genius to guess that things aren't going well when a child wants to run away. Not bad. The magician is not so low as to take advantage of a child growing in captivity, and he won't be so desperate to look for her now that she's gone. He must have found it too dubious that the child with the silver eyes was in the orphanage. It was then that he went in search of her, since this is probably an honor for the family. Asi said that the headmistress is already marked with death. This was one of the signs of black magic. Apparently someone is trying to cast a dark spell on her. Stealing someone else's prey was not at all Asia's style. He said he would take all the remaining children. This surprised the woman, and she asked again. The man said that everyone, since they would never meet her again. No deals are made with the dead. The woman said that was exactly what she wanted to propose. It seemed to him that he would have to leave with nothing after hearing about Clown, but here's a surprise. Asi asked where the woman would go. The woman said that she did not know that he was a member of the Clown family and noted that she was considering leaving the Empire with her son. People with the stigma of black magic can never get rid of it. Ancient black magic is as powerful as it is dangerous. Even if the manager runs away, this magic will kill her. Maybe she will be lucky if the magician decides to erase the mark from her for a good reward. Asi was not sure of her sincere goodwill. The woman asked the gentleman. She wanted to know where he was going to take the children. Asya is in a good mood today. He said that they would dig for ore. The director asked if they would only do this. He managed to find children that he could use, and black magic impressed him well. And besides, the manager, whose plans were to cope with all this, will soon die. Asi said that he hoped that they would not forget about the fun trip for a long time, unless it's their last, 2 days after Sharente Clown removed Sharina's bracelet. To create a tool capable of controlling magic, they used the Philosopher's Stone. It stands out with its red color. Unlike magic stones, which are mined in special states, philosophical stones can only be found in ruins. This is another of its characteristic features. They take away the magical abilities of wizards by destroying them. However, oddly enough, only people with magical abilities can engage in the processing of philosopher's stones. This is due to the fact that the moment the philosopher's stone begins to absorb the magician's power. Apparently, it took Sharente Clown a long time to get his hands on him, because only real masters have it. Of course, anyone with magical powers can cut off the bracelet with a sword. The baby turned to Vera and asked her to eat. Vera said that she would stay here, and it seems that now she will have to have lunch with her. Jella noticed that she looked angry, but she won't go anywhere. The maid said that the baby should lie down and she would be next to her until she fell asleep. And this has been going on for several days. She doesn't leave Sharina's side. At night, he always waits until she falls asleep first, after which he sits for several more hours. The main character was literally speechless at the sight of her tear-stained face. It seemed to her that she would be furious, and not quietly, convulsively crying. Jella understood that she was to blame. Vera was so worried about her, but still, she cannot promise that she will always be with her. Eventually, Hella will leave this place. In addition, Sharina's bracelet has already been removed and it's time for her to put a curse on the manager. But Jella cannot be left alone even for a minute. Sharina thought that perhaps she should apologize to Vera again. A wave of strong magic. Vera grabbed the baby. The little girl understood that if things suddenly began to collapse now, Vera would die first. She didn't understand why Vera would sacrifice herself for the sake of a person she barely knew. Vera asked Sharina if she was okay. Jella didn't understand what it was now. It wasn't because of the shaking of the mansion. The main character knows this feeling. Intermittent vibration and a strange earthquake, as if something below wants to break out. This anomaly occurs when new ruins are born. Previously, something like this was in the order of things. This happens due to the fact that the ruins are under a barrier created by ancient magicians, but sooner or later the magic still breaks out, forming new ruins. Magic in such places is extremely active, and then the council in Solofia was the first to learn about the places where the ruins appeared, warning other states about it. It seems there was no notice this time. Of course, discovering ruins in places far from civilization, such as a dense forest or the wilderness of the sea, can take a lot of time. But it was strange not to notice the emergence of ruins within the empire. Gela didn't understand where Melaine had gone. Before getting rid of people so easily, let them themselves start working properly first. There are a number of reasons why you should prepare in advance for the appearance of ruins. They arise for a reason, which means sooner or later something will happen. This creature guards the ruins. They are always under his protection, and to be more precise, entry into them is under close control. In this regard, a special envoy from Solofia is expected to arrive soon. He will most likely be sent to the Imperial Palace. There may also be a research group if necessary. Sharina suggested that Vera leave here. The woman thought this was a good idea. Kishana asked his dads to calm down because everything is fine, because he is safe as long as his father is around. The boy saw Sharina. Sharente asked if the baby was hurt. Vera said that there was no way. Sharente turned to Sharina and personally asked if she was okay. Jella didn't understand why he was asking, because Vera had just said it. Jella said she was fine. Sharente understood her and said that they should get out of here quickly. The main character was not herself, because Sharente Clown is more suited to curse words. They went out onto the steps. There was panic all around. And this happens not only in the Clown Mansion, but everywhere. Perhaps some of the Empire's houses have already been razed to the ground. Gela didn't understand whether it really didn't seem to anyone that this should have been properly planned in Solofia. Be that as it may, the state treasury is not rubber, and Silofia will go bankrupt just a little bit longer because of everything. Of course, she has nothing to worry about, but she wouldn't want to be in debt when she returns. Deshar ordered everyone to stop panicking and rather inspect the mansion. They also had to check if there were any wounded. The Duke asked Sharente what happened to the children. Kishan said that he was just a little scared, but everything was normal. Deshar calmed down and turned to Sharina. The man asked if the baby was hurt. Gela replied that she was fine. Sharente corrected her again and she didn't understand why he had been so picky. Gela remembered that she still needed to bow. Probably the protective magic of the clown mansion is quite strong, since everyone so unquestioningly follows the orders received without going outside. The little girl suggested that Vera was probably also busy helping other maids, and she couldn't wait to get out of here. Kishan took Sharina's hand and said that since he was her brother, he should protect her. Gela wondered what he was going to do with his eyes swollen from tears. He's already 7 years old, and he still acts like a little one. But there is a certain charm in this. In any case, she wants to see the current location of the ruins. Gela, instantly. Just a little teleportation magic, and she's already right there. Sharente told Sharina not to even think about going outside because it was dangerous. Sharente asked Kishan to make sure that Sharina did not go anywhere. The boy was very happy and told his dad that he would take care of Sharon. It was very dishonest because the ruins are the whole life of the main character, and Gela also wants to do excavations and find new artifacts. Deschard asked Sharente if there was any news from Solofia. Sharente said he sent a message to the Citadel. "We've arrived." The woman greeted Duke Clown. Sharente noticed that uninvited guests had arrived. The man asked if His Majesty had told Jimmy this. Sharente greeted His Majesty and noted that this was an unexpected meeting and he did not even recognize him at first, because he usually looks different. Gela did not understand what the Emperor was doing here. No more than an hour has passed since the earthquake, and he is already here. The man noticed that there were rumors that Sharente had a daughter. Gela was surprised and wondered if all members of the imperial family had such golden hair. En pointed to Gela and asked if she was that very new daughter. Sharente said no. Sharina also could not restrain herself and said no. Being Sharente's daughter would be a complete horror. If she were actually his relative, she would have run away to another family. The Emperor introduced Ellie and Dali. He told them to go play with Kishan. Only they should not offend him because he is the Duke's nephew. Deschard asked His Majesty if something had happened. The Emperor said that they were probably aware that new ruins had appeared. He said that this place is located only 5 kilometers from the village of Onyx. The little girl was surprised that it was only 5 kilometers. A little hundred and the guardian of the ruins could easily mistake the inhabitants of the settlement for invaders. Guardians, depending on their species, have different territories they protect. Those with wings usually protect wide areas. That roar that Gela heard just now, it must have been Vevon, a small but especially fierce species of dragons flying high in the sky. Sharente asked if there was any news from Solofia. The Emperor said that there was no warning, and in fact, this is understandable. At the moment, he is monitoring the existing ruins. The ruins appear suddenly. Their direction is quite difficult to determine, so they can't blame them for it. Gela thought that he would now begin to blame Solofia for everything, but it turned out that he did not. Apparently, the Emperor who was able to capture an entire continent is not at all what Hela imagined him to be. But monitoring the emergence of ruins is their job. They should have at least sent a dispatch to the palace. The Emperor said they did so. The Emperor has already been given information about the Guardian and how to get into the ruins. This surprised Deschard, and he asked again. The little girl herself noticed that something was not clean here. They were unable to predict the possible appearance of ruins. Then, how they could know about how things were going inside was not clear. Getting into the ruins is very difficult. Since ancient magic was cast on them, not everyone can get inside. There are mandatory requirements. It happens that access is allowed only to representatives of a certain gender. In some cases, only people who have solved the puzzle can get inside. Gela has a bad feeling. She assumed that this was all the work of the Senate. These greedy and nasty old men deliberately remained silent until the last moment. But what is even more strange is that the sudden wave of magic was not noticed in Solofia. Gela even made a special magic magnifying glass for emergencies. The Emperor said that it was enough to talk to the Council of Solofia. The Emperor said that in any case they had got rid of their only leader with whom they could negotiate. They all seem to have already realized the full scale of the mistake they made. Such news gives Gela goosebumps. She couldn't breathe. Sharente took the baby in his arms and asked her to calm down. As soon as the main character's body was overcome by this strange feeling, everything around her suddenly turned white. The girl pressed herself against the Duke and wanted to cry. The Emperor noticed that the Duke's niece must be very sensitive. Over time, Hela stopped trembling as soon as the Emperor calmed down his ardor a little. Sharente asked Sharina if she was okay. The little girl said that yes, and he sent her to Kishan. Now that she has calmed down, she feels very pathetic. The main character did not understand how the greatest Gela could be so frightened that her knees were shaking. Gela didn't understand why he left her standing here alone. The ruler noticed that they were thinking of sending several people. Gela stood next to them and wanted to eavesdrop on something, because in this way, she might be able to find out something about the ruins. The emperor's daughter approached the baby and asked her name. Hela wanted her to go somewhere because she was stopping her from eavesdropping on the ruins. Kishan came up and told her that the baby's name was Sharina. Gela praised Kishan in her thoughts because she benefited from the fact that he spoke to her. The emperor asked whether the strength of the owner of at least one artifact was comparable to that of an entire army. Instead of giving other countries a chance to take the artifact, they should try to get at least one more. The man noticed that, if you think about it, everyone in the empire, Sharente, already has it. Gela realized that the artifacts already had their owner, and this was Sharente Clown. The little girl was wondering what kind of artifact this was, because they had never spoken. Therefore, the main character simply must find out while she has the opportunity. The emperor's daughter introduced herself and said that she was Elian, and her younger brother Dalian was standing next to her. She was pleased to meet Sharina. The same could not be said about Sharon. The little girl was just waiting for this girl to leave. The emperor said that he believed that another artifact would be useful in the palace. The main character listened to everything and did not understand what kind of artifact it was or what they were talking about. It was difficult for Gela to understand this, so she decided not to listen further. Elian was touched, looking at Sharina, and said that she was very cute, and Dalian didn't understand why she didn't pay attention to them. Looking at his raised eyebrows, you get the feeling that he is about to get angry. Gela needed to quickly deal with them, because I was only getting in her way. But of course she won't do this, because kids should play with kids. She turned to her brother. Kishan was shocked and very happy to see his sister say her name. The boy approached her and asked why she called him. Hela could not say that he would become a copy of Sharente when he grew up. Sharente's son, of course, is still an annoying one. Well, he treats Gela like a real sister, and this means that he will always be on her side. Sharina, with her eyes downcast, told her brother that she was scared. Kishan quickly stood in front of her and told the children that his sister was scared, so he asked them not to approach her. The main character noticed that he behaves like a real clown, because only they are capable of so proudly blocking the path of members of the imperial family. Sharente told the emperor that he would do as he said, and by tomorrow everything will be ready. The ruler said that this is extremely urgent, so they are moving out tomorrow at noon. Gela wanted them to tell us how to get to the ruins. She missed a chance that would have helped her learn about the imperial artifact. The emperor asked the duke to take care of the prince and princess. Dishar agreed, but Gela didn't understand what it meant to take care. She didn't want to believe that they would stay here. Of course, the emperor would personally go to explore the ruins, and it is logical that he decided to leave the children in a safe place. But Gela is surprised by their trusting relationship with each other. The ruler looked at the baby and said that they would meet next time. He didn't do anything wrong, but it feels like she's just been rejected. The children told Kishan that he was very stubborn, but the boy still did not allow them to approach his sister. Gela didn't even notice at what moment everything turned out this way. The main character did not understand what was going on here. Elian told Kishan that Sharina would play with her, because he sees his sister every day. Gela didn't understand since when they were so close that this girl wanted to play with her. But Kishan said no to Her Highness because Sharina was scared. Kishan did nothing but cry all the time. He looked like a wounded puppy, and Gela couldn't believe that this could only be a pretense, because he was unusually brave today, and you couldn't even recognize him by his voice. Dalian told Kishan that he should not forget that he was talking to his older sister, so he should let her play with Sharina. The prince had terrible pronunciation due to missing front teeth. Kishan said that Sharina doesn't even play with him every day. Sharina wanted to apologize to the guys because she considered it her fault. I made a mess, so I have to sort it out myself. Sharina approached the princess and offered her her hand. She was shocked and asked if Sharina really wanted to play with her. Sharina offered her hand to Kishan. They held hands. Dalian looked very confused. Gela didn't know whether to say that with his outstretched palm he looked too pitiful. But Sharina only has 2 hands. Therefore, she invited the boy to take hold of his shoulder. Dalian said that if the sister is happy, then that is enough. Gela didn't understand why he was so angry. They were all so grown up, and yet they still put on a circus over some trivial matter. Gela would like to mind her own business. Sharina called her grandfather. Deshar listened to her attentively. The little girl asked if she could go to the garden. Deshar asked again, and the baby confirmed this. Gela decided that she would leave them in the garden, while she herself threw the damn doll into the water. True, it would have been nice if she had done it that time when Vera wasn't looking. Deshar let them go. Charente was very surprised that they had already gotten rid of the orphanage. The knight said that no traces were found, not even the slightest. He asked if the manager had been questioned. The man said he thought it was impossible because they immediately saw through her attempts to escape from the Empire, which is why they chased after her. But only her corpse was found. Charente wondered why she died. It was assumed that she had died, but one moment seemed strange to them. They were easy to track. Less than an hour had passed since they checked into some hotel, so they managed to quickly catch up with them. However, their bodies were already swollen and their lungs were filled with water. However, that hotel did not even have a bathroom, and their bodies seemed to be soaked in water. Charente asked if they died because of this. When he heard that yes, he realized that black magic was clearly involved here. Recently, there was just a similar case. Baroness Sullivan burned down, but no traces were found. The Baroness died the same mysterious death. Charente asked the knight if he thought this was a similar case to the one that happened with Baroness Sullivan. The man said that if you look at it as a whole, it's quite okay. The door was locked, and the water was only around the bodies and nowhere else. At least squeeze the water out of them. Charente asked if anything was known about who was trying to buy Sharina. The knight said that everything was unchanged, and that while they were looking for books of accounts, he would try to get as much information as possible. Charente released her. The Duke understood that such matters were not resolved so quickly, but they never found anything, and this was beginning to irritate him. He thought about Sharon. This kid is a complete pain in the ass. Even Valian had never found himself in such serious situations. Charente was never able to get a clear answer from her, but it was probably Sharina who killed the Baroness. And this happened by using black magic incorrectly. And this time Charente also has doubts about her. The baby is much smarter than Kishan. At times she doesn't act like a child at all. It is possible that a deep resentment towards the head of the orphanage could be hidden in her heart, which is why she killed her. The only question is whether it was intentional or not. Charente thought this was the last time, but he couldn't be sure. It was all very difficult. But even if this is not the case, he doesn't understand how the little girl managed to first comprehend black magic out of all the possible ones. Charente himself found it funny. Be that as it may, Sharina is still not in the family book. She should have been left alone when she decided to leave home on her own, and whether she was alive or dead was not so important. But Charente himself cannot understand why he went to such a distance to find her. He thought about how he should have stopped worrying about her like Valian and Ranian had done, but after that he didn't try to win them back. Because I didn't understand why try to return those who believe that there is no reason to try to return those who believe that there is something more important than family. Charente decided that he should not worry so much about this child, and that it would be better to take only a few already established people to explore the ruins. Only the one wearing the crown can get inside. There are two ways here. Either this means a king or an emperor, or one who has the right to command people. One vague word is not enough to know for sure. Because of this, the imperial palace decided that the emperor would personally go instead of causing ruins. And also from the side of the temple it was decided that the knight Simula and the priest would also go together. Charente noticed that it seemed that several wizards, including the current owner of the magic tower, were also sent straight from Solofia. This time the ruins are too close to the village, so you need to get rid of the monsters as soon as possible. Considering the conditions under which one can get inside the ruins, it would be better to get by with only the leader of the knights and a few more people. Still, Charente fears that something might happen while he's away. Sharina often doesn't act like a child. She knows her situation like no one else and never goes overboard. The girl doesn't even seem to hope for mercy from other people. She is wary of everyone as an enemy, without feeling sadness or regret. However, the only one in whom she sees support and time is Vera. It turns out that life is not sweet for children either. However, Sharente Clown did not realize until the very end that Sharina had returned to thoughts that she had gotten rid of earlier. Elian asked Sharina which of her dresses was more beautiful. The princess was clearly the most beautiful here, because she was organizing a whole fashion show in someone else's house, and she also called all the maids to it. Arrogant people always love to talk about their unprecedented beauty and intelligence, and that it's as if such people cannot be found in the whole wide world. It was directly about the emperor's daughter. Sharina showed displeasure at one of the dresses. Elian said that she also thinks that it is truly the most beautiful, and she knew that the baby would choose it. Dalian said that he believes that all dresses are the same and does not see any difference in them. And Kishan praised Sharina and said that she was amazing. He also noticed that his little sister is the best, but everything was wrong, and Gela really wanted to tell the princess that she deliberately moved the dress a little forward. Dalian told the little girl to come to their palace next time, but Sharina refused this because she already has enough of clowns alone, and she doesn't really want to go to the palace and see this terrible emperor. From an early age, he fought on the battlefield with his ancestors. The former emperor immediately noticed leadership in him when he was still a prince and left the throne in the midst of the war. So he ended up on the throne at the age of 17. Afterwards, having won a war that lasted even during the time of the former emperor, he was able to quickly conquer the continent. In addition, he not only improved the situation within the empire itself, but also almost completely eliminated the consequences of the war in just 10 years. When Gela saw him, he was not scary at all, and the way he talked and behaved with others was very different from how she imagined him. But as soon as he showed his true face, it was immediately clear that he was just trying to be kind, like an animal hiding its claws. The guy didn't understand why the baby didn't want to. Dalian asked whether Sharon wanted to tell him that she had much more to do than he, His Highness the Prince. But Elian interrupted him by saying that she was already hungry. Gela didn't understand why she was left with the baby at all. She actually wanted to go to the ruins excavation. If it's an hour away, she can easily get there. Gela didn't even want to think about spending more time with these children. The maid came. She informed His Highness, the Prince and Princess, that it was time for a little snack. Elian was very happy to see the sweets. Gela was angry because she was not offered it, but Vera came and said that she had pudding for her. The main character was very happy to see Vera and understood that nothing compares to pudding. Vera began to feed the baby. The pudding just melted in my mouth. This velvety, delicate, and refined taste is just how Sharina likes it. And the caramel syrup is just something. Dalian asked Gel how many classes she was taking. Gela just felt a surge of strength thanks to her favorite pudding and did not understand what the prince was talking about. The prince said that he simply has 10 classes a day. And I didn't understand how only Sharina could dare to say that she was more loaded than him. Sharina didn't even have one lesson. Either way, they're already done. He looks about 8 years old. Just think, 10 lessons a day, it's simply amazing. Sharina decided that nothing could be done since he was from the imperial family. Vera asked if the baby had eaten everything, but Sharina said that she was busy. The main character had to return to her room and go to excavation of the ruins. A little more, and she seems to be right in heaven. Dalian asked where the baby was going. Gela said she was going to the toilet. Hela thought that if only she could learn the spell and cast it normally, she could cover long distances in just one go. Unlike the main character's previous body, this one has not yet accepted dark magic. So in this case, it is much more convenient to attract magic from the outside. Gela decided to try it. It looked a little awkward, but still the main character decided to try. It didn't work out for her, so she decided that she shouldn't even start with her terrible pronunciation. Space, which is limited, and time, which cannot be controlled, must open a secret path for Sharina, under the inaccessible cover of the earth. The main character had to attract a huge amount of magic from the outside in order to protect the magic stones. Kishan was looking for Sharina, and when he found her, he was very surprised. Kishan jumped on his sister because he didn't want this, and the main character understood that everything was lost. They found themselves in a clearing together. The baby was in great pain. She had no way of knowing or understanding what he had just done. Gela noticed that he was quite strong. Kishan told Sharina that he would protect her. He says this so confidently, although he hides his face on his sister's shoulder, trembling a little. But not only that, he doesn't run away anywhere, even though he was scared to the point of trembling. But it's so sweet, and at the same time awkward, that with all this, he wants to protect the main character. In truth, it wouldn't sound so good if he became Jella's enemy in the future. Kishan asked Sharina if she was okay. His silver eyes tremble a little, but he doesn't think about crying at all. The girl told Kishan that she was fine. Gela is overcome by a huge wave of pride. He was ready to sacrifice himself in order to protect his little sister. Kishan asked where they were, but the little girl said she didn't know. In any case, they have not walked very far, so they will have to use the magic of movement again. Gela didn't know for sure whether Kishan would ever turn against her, but she had to let him go. The little girl asked Kishan to give her his hand. The boy put down his sword and took his little sister's hand. Gela understood that if everything continued like this, it seemed to her that it would be much more difficult. This shouldn't happen. Kishan asked Sharina what was that in the distance. The little girl said it was ruins. The boy noticed that his dad was probably there now. Gela was amazed at how much he cared about his family. The brother turned to Sharina and said that he had often heard about her some special gift, but it turned out that this was really true, so he called Sharina phenomenal and at the same time asked if she missed her dad. But Sharina said no. She didn't understand what kind of nonsense he was talking about now. She couldn't even think about missing Sharente. If this happened, it would definitely not be in this life. There were quite a lot of people at the ruins. Knights of Simul with a priest, imperial warriors. At the same time, the soldiers of the clown family, and other aristocrats. Kishan saw his father and began to call him. Sharina was horrified and did not understand what he was doing. Sharina pulled Kishan by the sleeve. He did not understand what was happening. The emperor said that they spent a lot of time trying to deal with the guard and therefore invited everyone to quickly go inside. One of the knights was thrown back by magic, and the emperor noticed that he did not seem to fit. One by one, the knights approached the entrance to the ruins. The emperor reported that 2 knights of Simul, 2 warriors from the imperial palace, and 2 more from the temple and the Marquis of Murl. It was almost 7 people. Sharente said that if you take into account the emperor, then all 9. Gela, of course, assumed that this would be the case, but getting into the ruins turned out to be a difficult task. The main character noticed the knight who was with Rainian, and he was here. Since in addition to this, the Knights of Simul with the Imperial warriors were also brought here, this means that it is not the king who can end up in the ruins, but the one who has the right to command people. Here we were talking about people who can become conquerors. That's why there are so many leaders in this place. In addition, the head of the Knights, Simula, is here. Under such incomprehensible conditions, getting into the ruins is much more difficult. However, 9 people are already a research group. If you look at it this way, there is no one from Solofia here. Looking at their faces, it immediately becomes clear that Melon could not come. But it's not clear why. Gela decided that she shouldn't worry about it, much less be upset. In fact, one of the few reasons why ruin exploration is not easy. The point is that the leader cannot take with him all the people he would like, because those who are rejected by the ruins can never find themselves inside. Gela is also interested in what is there. Now she does not have such abilities that she could get inside the ruins, and it looks quite dangerous, so it's better to watch from the side without disturbing anyone. The main character is thinking about going for a walk and taking Kishan with her. Sharente said he would go first. The emperor allowed it. These 2 don't even have the thought that the ruins won't accept them. Gela wanted to have the same confidence. Apparently this is the behavior of a conqueror. Kishan stood up and called his dad. Sharina understood that everything was lost. Sharente was completely bewildered. He didn't understand how Kishan ended up here. Gela understands that he is only 7 years old, but he can't be that stupid. Nothing will happen to him if Dad is not around for a while. Sharina was already starting to think about leaving, until she was found here. Kishan knows that he will definitely be scolded, but he is not going to reveal his sister. The main character didn't know what to do, and so she came out of the bushes. Sharente, like no one else, knows that she uses magic, and since she ran away from home, he must have guessed what was happening. People started talking about the baby because they knew they were from the clown family, but they didn't understand. Who's that next to Sharente Clown's son? They called the children hooligans and did not understand how they could end up here. People didn't think that children could walk such a distance, especially on foot. And they remembered that recently there had been one incident in the mansion. Sharente asked Sharina and Kishan which of them was the instigator of the idea to hide in the cart. Gela realized that he had decided to just ruin everything. Gela assumed that the nobles did not treat magicians very well, and if any of them found out that a child from the clown family uses magic, it would damage their reputation. Sharina said they were just playing hide-and-seek. Kishan admitted that they then noticed the cart, and he offered to climb inside. Gela noticed that he laid the bed well, but he was his father, and clearly knew that there was something fishy here. Layuli realized that they simply hid in the cart, and noticed that the children also used to like to climb and hide in different places. Sharente ordered Shudakal to take several people and take the children back. The man accepted the order. Sharente asked if Sharina wanted to tell him anything. He was as unfriendly as always, but something was wrong here, because he used to act differently when he was angry. True, Gela was not particularly happy to see him either. To be honest, Gela lived in the mansion for only 2 years, just wanted to catch a glimpse of the new ruins. She had no intention of getting into trouble. Gela would definitely have returned home within an hour. Gela had a lot of opportunities, excuses for why she did this, but because of her own pride, she did not utter a word. Sharente turned to the emperor and invited him to pass. The emperor said that he had known Keishan for a long time and did not think that he was capable of such a thing. True, seeing how desperate Sharente is, he will simply remain silent. Gela was very angry with Kishan. The air shook. It was just a small wave of magic. It is quite difficult to notice unless the person is an extremely sensitive wizard. Gela didn't understand what was happening. She was lifted into the air. Kishan grabbed Sharon's hand and they took off together. Sharente didn't understand what was happening. He tried to grab Kishan. The main character understood that she was finished. Gela didn't understand how it could have come to this. As soon as she found herself inside the ruins, the magic that had arisen from nowhere suddenly disappeared. But Sharina was pulled at such a high speed that she couldn't stop. At this rate, Gela will soon hit the wall. A little strange feeling, like something soft but hard. The man asked if Sharina was okay. The girl understood that this is most likely the knight who married Rainian. She didn't understand how he got here. The man asked if she remembered him. Gela wouldn't know who took Rainian, who occupies a special place in the main character's heart. Kishan asked Sharina if she was okay. It is commendable that even now he is thinking about how best to protect his sister rather than himself. The knight lowered the children to the ground. Sharente ran up. The main character was scared because she didn't expect him to call her by name, and not as usual. He asked Kishan if he was injured anywhere. Gela decided that he probably did this because of his son. There doesn't seem to be anything unusual. These ruins are no different from the others. The entrance to them is like the beginning of a long cave, and all due to the fact that a deep space is formed underground. On each of the tiers lives a monster or a riddle in an ancient language. In order to go even lower, the research group needs to get rid of these monsters or solve the puzzle. It is impossible to leave the ruins until all research is completed. The conditions say that the king himself can get inside, so the ruins must be extremely unruly. In any case, Hela didn't think she could get here. She wondered how many tiers there were. Sharente took Sharina in his arms and asked if she was safe. Gela didn't understand why he started to worry so much. It was somehow suspicious, and she did not understand what was wrong with him. The emperor asked Sharente Clown if he was okay. The duke said it looked like it. The children were ordered to leave the place immediately. The main character noticed that Sharente Clown is now more excited than ever, and she doesn't remember him ever being like this. Gela didn't understand that he allowed himself to do this. Moreover, once you find yourself in ruins, it is impossible to get out of them. Sharente probably also knows about this, but apparently due to strong excitement, he behaves somehow strangely. Gela didn't even remember the last time they were so worried about her. She also doesn't really want to go inside being in this childish form. Kishan tried to leave. Sharente asked what it was. The son said that he did not know, and noticed that suddenly something resembling the wind suddenly picked up Sharon. Gela was proud of his words because she would not have had to say anything in that case. That's right, this time Sharina is not to blame for anything. Sharina didn't understand why Sharente was looking at her like that. Presumably he thought it was the baby's doing again. Sharina said she didn't know anything. It was unfair, because Gela really wasn't to blame. Sharente said that Sharina had to leave and asked if she was going to stand there all this time. At first glance, it might seem that he is so worried about Sharina. Gela would also like to leave if there was such an opportunity. Gela didn't even think that the child would be able to enter there. Although Gela has the body of a child, she has the consciousness of an adult. But how Kishin managed to end up here was a mystery. The boy asked Sharina if everything was okay. It's not for nothing that he bears the name Clownov. He is empty and looks stupid, like a small child, but he is ready to protect his sister at any cost, along with a sword in his hands, if it is suddenly necessary. The Emperor said that the ruins had accepted them, so they could not leave. The knight asked permission to take care of Sharon. In any case, for Gela, it was much better than relying on Sharente, who was courting Kishin with all his might. It seemed to the main character that Rainian was interested in her. And if you believe the rumors, he almost carries her in his arms, as if he is ready to give everything he has. This means he will also protect Gela in this way. As long as you don't use dark magic directly against the Holy Knight, it shouldn't do much harm. You need to stay next to him for at least a week. Sharente turned to Huirad von Grezel. Gela thought that this was a very colorful name for a knight, and she felt somehow uneasy about it. The Duke said that he did not think that the commander of the Holy Knights would personally come here. This surprised Gela because she did not know that he was a commander. Huirad said that besides him, there were no more people who could meet the conditions. The Emperor noted that now is clearly not the time for a showdown, and as he already said, entering the ruins means fulfilling the entry requirements. Until they finish their research, no one will leave here. The knight called Sharina to him. Now Gela understands why Rainian likes him. He is the man who will not go against his beliefs, no matter what, even if he faces death itself with a scythe. He's definitely trustworthy. However, once you meet an enemy, his essence becomes such a dangerous adversary that he will never make concessions. He told the little girl not to try to go down. It was dangerous. Gela also wanted to live with Rainian. As the leader of the knights, she thought it would be awkward to touch him, but it turned out better, and she used to hate people with holy power. The main character was so fascinated by black magic that she was disgusted at the thought of being near them. However, it is very funny that now he is the only one she could rely on. The most interesting thing was just ahead. The Emperor was inside the ruins for the first time and noticed that it was very surprising. He asked the Marquis if this was his first time in the ruins. Marquis Murrell said that this was the first time he had noticed that he would try not to cause unnecessary inconvenience to the Emperor. He looked very quiet, and Gela didn't understand how he ended up here. Gela was surprised that of all those who explored the local ruins, only the Duke himself and Sir Uriad were found. 2 Simul Knights had also previously participated in the exploration of the ruins. Even though Kishin had already walked quite a bit, he didn't look tired at all. Gela noticed that he had good endurance and endurance. Sharina felt very bad that she was the only one who got tired so quickly. From the inside, the ruins look quite simple. At the beginning, there is a long passage, and at the end, there is an empty space, reminiscent of a wide room. Sharina noticed that there was a subtle magic around her. Apparently, no one else noticed this except her. Once they calmly continued to walk on. If anyone gets hurt during this time while they are walking, it will be extremely inconvenient to set up camp. Sharina really wanted the knight to pay attention to her and therefore pulled his jacket. The man turned his head down and asked what happened. The Emperor turned and asked if something had happened. The little girl pointed to the side and said that there was something strange there and asked everyone to look there. The Emperor told Sharente that apparently the baby was afraid of the dark and asked Sharente whether it would be better if he took the baby into his arms. Gela knew there was something there. The knight asked to wait because it seemed that there was a monster there. The Emperor asked again. The commander put the baby on the floor. The man asked the Emperor to allow this to be provided to him. The knight took out a sword, and Gela immediately realized that it was an artifact. This is one of 3 that are located in the Heron Empire, and he is the owner. Gela just couldn't believe that the sacred artifact was in the place where the lowly ones were. Usually, caves with dragons contain low-lying artifacts. However, where sacred artifacts should appear. Instead, either monsters with puzzles or mental tests await, due to the fact that base artifacts are much weaker than sacred ones. The Emperor noticed that Charente's niece had amazing strength. Charente said that she just had good intuition and nothing more, and asked not to come closer. The Emperor said that she was easily able to discover something that no one else would have noticed. The knight approached and reported that he had dealt with all the dragons. He arrived just in time. This knight was very dexterous, and even considering that he had a sacred artifact in his hands, he quickly dealt with them. If they continue like this, their research will soon end. However, they were able to descend to the next tier only an hour after they had dealt with the dragons. The knights reported on the units they had checked. The Emperor said that if there is no exit anywhere, then this means that this is the last tier. But that was not the case, because usually the places where the artifact is located look much more sublime or peaceful. Looking at them, you can immediately understand that this is the last tier. However, it seems that none of them have been to the ruins before. It seemed that it would be easy enough to find a way out of everything here, but they walked around all the walls, examining them up and down. And even after that, they didn't find anything. The stone said to feel the weight of the crown, but Hela didn't even know what that could mean. The main character decided that if there were no doors on the walls, then there must be them on the floor. The real problem is that it is very dark here and there is a huge space to search. Kishan asked Sharina what she was doing. The little girl said she was just walking, so the boy offered to go together. But Sharina didn't really want this. But since Kishan protected her and cared for her, she can be patient. Suddenly, Sharina found something. She didn't know what to do. The girl suggested that there should be a person standing there with a certain weight. A lot of ideas popped into the main character's head, even about just trying to break through. But in this case, there will be damage, the amount of which cannot be calculated. Jella had a stupid habit of sucking a pacifier. Sharina ran up to the knight and grabbed his legs. He asked what it was, and the little girl asked to look at what she found. Sharina had the feeling that someone was looking at her. It was Charente. She wondered if he was happy, because Hela specifically asked the knight so as not to burden the Duke. The knight looked and thought that it looked like an ordinary floor. The Emperor invited Sir Wired to play along, because thanks to this baby they ended up here safely. Gela understood that either he was still a joker, or this whole situation looked completely absurd to him. Even though Jella found this place, no one cares. The knight asked again. He took out his sword and checked it. The Emperor asked Sir if there was anything there. Wirad said that it seems that the entrance here is sealed with powerful magic and called Sharina to him. Charente looked menacingly, and Hela was happy and assumed that he was upset because she had ruined everything. The Emperor asked if Sir wanted to say that there was an entrance there. Wirad said that yes, it seems that it cannot be easily broken, so they need to find another way. The solution itself suggests itself. Due to the fact that the magic that is hidden in the ruins is by no means simple, you can never know what the reaction will be if you try to break it. Gela decided that they should probably just maintain the weight, but the problem was that they didn't know what weight to use, and Gela still didn't know how to convey these thoughts to her. If everything else can be taken simply as intuition, then the fact that a 3-year-old child can solve a puzzle would be very strange. The Emperor was surprised that this was the daughter of that crazy clown. Jella couldn't even imagine what Sharina's father did, that everyone would talk about him like that. The Emperor leaned over to Sharina and asked her how she found it. The main character said that she was simply a genius and knew about it from the very beginning. The little girl didn't know how to explain and said that suddenly something was strange. The girl decided that she just needed to talk nonsense and he would leave behind. In any case, she wants to get out of here as soon as possible. The baby turned to His Highness and said that she was very bored, so she asked him to play with her. Jella understood that she could only be capricious because she didn't really know how to speak. The Emperor was the most important thing here, not weight, but in terms of importance, being an emperor, it is better to start with him. He looked very disappointed. The fact that she is disappointed is true, but he holds on, and perhaps because he also has children. The Emperor asked the little girl what she wanted to play with him. When the Emperor stood in that place, everything began to collapse. Hela was very happy because one emperor was enough to open it. The main character wanted to stop because everything was happening too quickly. The emperor did not understand what was happening, and they began to fall down together. Gela was just lucky today. She didn't know for sure, but how lucky she was that she thought of putting the magic stone in her pocket. Sharina began to try to use the stone but saw Charente flying after her. The man grabbed the baby. With the help of his artifact, the Duke descended safely. The emperor asked if the baby was okay, or if everything was okay. Charente said it was nothing, except that the child was very scared. This angered Sharina a little, but she admitted that she was still a little shaken. Charente also looked very worried and a little confused. He ordered the little girl not to act like a fool and not dare to leave him anywhere. Gela was outraged because it was only thanks to her that they found the way, and then Charente took Sharina in his arms and said that she wouldn't have to walk. Gela didn't understand what he was talking about. Charente said that they would not need her help, so the baby has to hold on tight. Sharina didn't understand how this wouldn't be necessary, because if it weren't for her, they would have stuck around for who knows how long. No matter how hard Gela tries to ignore these words that she is no longer needed, they pierce like a dagger into her heart. Being useless is what the main character fears most in this world. Charente said that he knows that she is much smarter than other children and she is not at all like them. But when he looks at her, he involuntarily thinks, each of them sometimes needs to be a child, but, as he said earlier, as long as Sharina is under his protection, he will protect her, swearing on the clown family. Therefore now the baby does not need to do anything. Gela noticed that he was not behaving at all as usual, and that this was not like him. She could not even think that Charente himself would tell her something like that. Gela felt somehow strange in her soul, feeling like it shouldn't be, something personal. She had not heard anything like this from anyone for a long time, and what was even stranger was to hear such words from him. Gela's life was completely different. I had no place to rest, and she felt sorry for wasting time, even on sleep. Therefore, being a child is not so bad. Children can be forgiven for absolutely anything, and at the same time, almost everyone is ready to protect them. The time when a person can spend time with children does not last so long. Gela has already forgotten about revenge. Charente said that from now on things could be much more dangerous. So from now on, Sharina must sit still. She needed to forget about everything at least for a while they were in ruins. Luck is skill. The emperor was extremely curious. Their family is not at all like the others, as if they are not from this world. In any case, it's better not to twitch now, because if Gela does something wrong, then it is possible that His Majesty will simply throw her out. Gela wouldn't really want anyone to know that she has magic. If anyone recognizes that she owns it, the reputation of the clown family will depend on it. Things could turn out really bad, and then she could easily become a real problem. Knowing the fact that I myself, the imperial family, does not particularly like magicians, everyone was assembled so they could continue. The emperor wondered what the likelihood was that someone was here before them. That high, beautiful voice. After hearing it, each of them will certainly succumb to temptation. He easily charms people, although the echoes resemble laughter, like from another planet. A little more, and Gela would have found herself under his spell. She hoped others were doing well. The baby noticed Kishan and understood that at this rate he would be completely at his mercy. She asked Urad to put her down. The little girl ran towards the boy. It was the sound of a siren. So far it has only affected Kishan, apparently due to the fact that children are more sensitive and receptive to high-pitched sounds. People with good hearing are a little easier to fall under the spell of sirens. Gela didn't know what about her because she is also a child. The pacifier began to glow. Gela didn't understand what it was, and at first thought it was just her imagination. One way or another, she needs to talk some sense into her brother first. Charente and the emperor looked at all this. Sharina tried to get Kishan's attention. It didn't work, and he, still as if enchanted, continues to walk towards the doors. Charente picked up Kishan. The Marquis asked if the Duke would mind if he examined the boy. His pupils were dilated. The Marquis said that Kishan looked like he was under a spell. Sharina shouted that it was a siren, but she didn't do it very expressively. The little girl repeated once again that it was a siren. The man looked at her in bewilderment. Gela, you yourself knew that her pronunciation was bad, but it should still be clear to them. She didn't understand if Kishan had never reacted like that. The emperor said that if it was a siren, in various legends it was said how they lured travelers with their voices into going astray. True, it was at sea. The main character noticed that he knew nothing at all about base monsters. Most of them look human. Sir said that sirens are one of the monsters. Instead of captivating people with their voices or leading them along a path, they put them to sleep and then killed them by tearing them apart. Gela noticed that the answer was a plus. Considering that temples are often cleaned, he must have first-hand knowledge of demons and monsters. Sir said to leave it to him because he could deal with it in no time. Sharina didn't understand what was wrong with him because everything was fine. At the moment of death, the siren emits a deadly poison, and it must be stopped because it cannot kill her. The sea, struck by the poison of the siren, became so enormously dangerous that for some time it was impossible to meet a living soul there. If even one drop of this poison ends up outside the ruins, then they may never see the light of day again. So the little girl stood in front of the knight and said no. The emperor thought about it and asked the little girl why they couldn't go there. It seemed like a normal and friendly question, but there could be a lot of snakes hiding in it. Although he is an emperor, he is not at all aware of his full importance, as if he doesn't even think that they may very well not return from here. Sharina said that she doesn't even know and started falling because of the headache. She decided to pretend she didn't know anything. The little girl said that some voice was constantly talking in her head. She's lucky, because this time everything can be blamed on a strange phenomenon inside. The emperor asked again. Gela tried to pretend that she was crying, but she couldn't even shed a tear. It's just that when you get bored, you can invent everything, and the tears will start flowing. Charente asked if Sharina was okay. Gela decided that she should apply a little saliva under her eyes, and voila, you can't tell the difference from tears. The emperor asked if this had ever happened. Sir said that he had not encountered anything like this, but since they are in ruins, then anything can happen. This was certainly true because anything can happen in ruins, and common sense is completely absent here. This is one of the few places where something can easily happen. The emperor asked what those voices were talking about. The little girl said that they ordered her to cover her ears. Parents of a child, then another test. The emperor asked again in surprise. Sharina showed how to do this. The ruler assumed that they wanted to attack them like this. But Sharina said that if they did not close their ears, and even if they opened their eyes, they would never leave here. Sirens do not attack those who are not under their spell and do not attack first. Sharina screamed that they would all die. The emperor thought about it. He asked the duke what would be the best thing to do, because Sharina is Charente's niece, so he would like to know his thoughts on this matter. Charente was silent and did not even open his mouth, as if his life depended on it. He asked if the voices told her that. The little girl now realized that she could have immediately pushed everything to the voices. In fact, she was afraid to visit many ruins and see a huge number of monsters on her way. However, she cannot say this.